Cool FAB-Racing on the road to MotoGP.
Hello, good afternoon and welcome to Red Lodge for round 2 of the 2019 Cool FAB-Racing British Mini Bike Championships. We head straight into the action after a fantastic lunch break with the Extreme 200 Race 2s. They are on their warm-up lap. The conditions are lovely now. It's almost dry, it's sunny, Let's not beat about the bush. Let's do the grid, shall we? Let's stop talking about the weather.
Yeah, let's do this. I don't know about lovely. It's all a bit patchy and wet out there in the circuit. But leading off from pole position will be Richard Holmes-Williams. And in second spot, we should have Brad Ray, but I don't think he's out there on circuit at the moment. Taylor Lawrence will be starting from third ahead of Cam Harris. Brandon Pearl, who said he might not race today, but he has headed out on the circuit. The Yellow Pearl on bike 146 in fifth spot. Ahead of Will Howarth on bike number 96. Ahead of Charlie Nesbitt on bike 86 in 7th. Harvey Claridge on bike 16 is in 8th, ahead of Jamie King on bike number 76 in 9th place. Blake Ansell should be starting in 10th spot, but we believe they might have headed home for the day after some bike issues earlier on. Ian Jackson should be on bike number 7 and 11th, ahead of David Wills. Bernie Hook in 13th, ahead of Callum Wybrow, and rounding out the field in the 15th position is Fraser Kinnaird.
So, an action-packed grid. We are missing a few riders. It's looking like half a grid more than a full grid at the moment, but we get ready to start the race. They look towards the red lights, a bit of creeping, but we are underway. Good start from Richard Holmes-Williams. Great start from Will Howarth. Further back down the grid, almost challenging for third place. A few riders ducking right around the outside into turns 2 and 3 for the first time. Richard Holmes-Williams is in the lead of this race. A great start from the number 10 rider. Had a great getaway. Harvey Claridge getting well involved as well into 4th place. And as they round turn number 6 for the first time out of 10, it's a bit spread out at the moment, but there's plenty of time for them to make a few moves. Richard Holmes-Williams will want to defend very vigorously though.
Yes, Harvey Claridge, as you pointed out, making a few moves at the start of the race. Didn't get off the line too well, but round the outside at turn number 2 made a couple of positions all the way up to 4th spot. And through the tight sections of the course, he is looking very fast mid-corner, but when it comes to the straight lines, he's not too quick. Buzz ahead across the line for the start of lap number 2 is Richard Holmes-Williams, ahead of second place Cam Harris. Taylor Lawrence in third spot on bike number 10, ahead of Harvey Claridge, who's looking to make a move on the back of Taylor Lawrence as he head into turn number 5. Will he get the run out of the corner? Looking quite good, but not quite yet. He's still in the back of Taylor Lawrence at the moment. Will Howarth in 5th spot, ahead of Jamie King. Brandon Pearl, who started 5th, has dropped back a few positions to 7th. David Wills in 8th, ahead of Ian Jackson. So out of the 15 riders that should be on the grid, there's only 9.
Well, it's good to have Brandon Pearl out on circuit. Came and joined us in the commentary box earlier on this morning. There's a yellow flag at turn number 8. Can't see why, so we'll get more information on that when we can. Although I fear there is no Richard Holmes-Williams. So is it that Richard Holmes-Williams had a technical issue? We don't know. We'll let you know as soon as we can. But over the line for the second time now, Cam Harris leads ahead of Taylor Lawrence. Harvey Claridge in 3rd. Will Howarth is 4th. Taylor Lawrence with the fastest lap, 50.5. compared to a 50.8 for Cam Harris and a 51.1 for Harvey Claridge. So a two-way scrap for the lead so far, and just hanging on to the coattails is Harvey Claridge.
That is absolute destruction there for Tractor Boy of Richard Holmes-Williams. Unfortunate for him, obviously having a few issues out there, but it looks like he's come across the lane in 7th position, so he still has time to make his way up through the field. As you said, Harvey Claridge all over the back of Taylor Lawrence and Cam Harris, as we said earlier on, loses a bit of time on the straights, but through the tight and twisty sections of the circuit, he leans right over on the bike, braking late, carrying lots of corner speed, and they come through the final corner. It looks like it's still Cam Harris ahead of Taylor Lawrence, and these two are battling out for a 3rd and 4th position yesterday, as Taylor Lawrence looked up the inside of Cam Harris into turn number 1, couldn't quite do it. Cam Harris holds it around the outside. 1st, 2nd and 3rd is Cam Harris, Taylor Lawrence, Harvey Claridge. Hey, and as soon as we said Richard Holmes-Williams might be looking to come through the field, he's just set the fastest lap of the race, a 49.8. That is 7/10 of a second faster than our race leader.
Well, that's not a bad lap time, especially considering the trials he's had in the first few laps of this race. Past Brandon Pearl on that last lap, also on the back of Jamie King, trying to make a move, can't quite make it stick through the later stages of the lap. The top 3 though, really holding on to each other. They're not seem to be pushing too hard. As soon as we say that, Taylor Lawrence goes for the move, goes for the lead. The number 10 leads this race with a late move in the penultimate corner, made the outside line work for him, and the number 10 is ahead of 201 for the first time in this race. Harvey Clowes remains in third, sitting quite pretty and watching this at the moment. He's just enjoying a bit of a relax at the moment. Someone who's not relaxing knows Will Howarth. Got Jamie King all over the back of him.
Oh, we've had Cam Harris go down at turn number 5 out of second spot. That's unfortunate for him. The back end just slid round, but he's back on the bike trying to get it restarted, and that's good for Richard Holmes-Williams, who's now up to third spot and chasing down the top 2. Well,
Richard Holmes-Williams is starting to close in. The last lap, 50.047. Harvey Clowes did 50.2, 50.8 for Cam Harris and 50.5 for Taylor Lawrence. So he's catching quite quickly to the race leaders again, although Will Howarth holding on with Jamie King. They're going to be scrapping not just in the Extreme 200s, but in the Pit Bike 140 and Moto teams. Two of our most popular riders in the paddocks in the senior categories. They come over the line, nose to tail again, and Will Howarth is just ahead by 0.4 of a second. Cam Harris did rejoin, is continuing, is getting a little bit of pressure from Brandon Perrell, and apart from that, it is side by side, a big side by side battle between Will Howarth using his slightly tauter bike just to get it round the corners better. The pit bike that Jamie King is using, very grunty, can really thrust out of the corners, but the Moto team can really sieve through corners just gently, but getting a lot of good pace out of the machine. Richard Holmes-Williams with the fastest lap though is attacking Harvey Clowes for second place. He's not even attacking Harvey Clowes for second place because he's gone through, and Harvey Clowes decides, I've had enough of this racing lark, I'm back to the paddock.
I don't know if that's what he's thinking. I think he wanted to stay out there if he could, but it looked like he had a bit of a bike trouble as he came out the far end corner there. So that means we now have Richard Holmes-Williams with 4 laps to go to put some pressure on Taylor Lawrence. He just set the fastest lap of the race there again, 0.4 quicker than our race leader. Now, with Richard Holmes-Williams putting a lot of pressure on Taylor Lawrence, can he soak up the pressure and hold on to first place? It's going to be one of those battles to watch out for. Jamie King has made a great move on Will Howarth over the last couple of laps, but can't manage to hold it. Cam Harris, after slipping off a couple of laps to go to turn number 5, is back on the bike and into 5th spot. Brandon Perrell, who said he might not even be racing today, is still in 6th spot, but as we look further around the lap, it looks like Richard Holmes-Williams is bridging the gap to Taylor Lawrence, Dan.
Well, he's starting to bridge the gap, starting to close in. It was 2.99 with a new fastest lap for Richard Holmes-Williams, a second quicker on that last lap than his compatriot Taylor Lawrence aboard the number 10 machine, scything through a bit of traffic in this session.
So yeah, that
makes his way through.
That may be quite good for Richard Holmes-Williams. He looked like he got through traffic a lot quicker than Taylor Lawrence as he got muddled up in the tight sections of the circuit, especially into turn 4 and turn 5, losing a bit of time there. But we have Richard Holmes-Williams, as you said, Dan, with the fastest lap of the race by 1 second ahead of Taylor Lawrence's best lap, only 2 seconds further back.
And that's only action on circuit currently. Jamie King up to the podium. The number 76 is in 3rd place, so a great result potentially there for Jamie King at his home event. He'll be really pleased with that if he can carry it on. But lap 8 at the moment, Taylor Lawrence and Richard Holmes-Williams did equal times, 2.231. It is starting to close up, but he's not got a lot of time in which he can do it. So Taylor Lawrence has got to hold on. Richard Holmes-Williams has got the burden to push and push and push and push and push.
Yeah, it looks like we had a rider pull into the pitch. I think it was David Wales on the 71 bike. Just came out the bottom end of the circuit and pulled into the pitch. Not quite sure what the issue is there, but unfortunate for David Williams, he is out of the race. But as we look towards the top end of the circuit, there's a lap and a half to go, and we've got Taylor Lawrence still with a few bike lengths of advantage over Richard Holmes-Williams. But you can see Richard Holmes-Williams is pushing as hard as he can. That gap must be down to just over a second as they come across the line to start the final lap of the race. Is Taylor Lawrence ahead of Richard Holmes-Williams, who sets the fastest lap once again of this race. Is down to 0.9 of a second, a 48.127.
That's over 1.2 seconds quicker on that last lap, closing up into turn number 5 through the infield section, so tight and twisty. Richard Holmes-Williams has got the confidence to do it. He's got half a lap in which he's going to have to make the move onto the back straight for the final time. He's in the slipstream, patiently waiting into turn 7, carries so much more speed, could make a late move, coming into the left-handed hairpin, thinks twice about it, although he is right on the back of him. Taylor Lawrence is just going to have to hold on.
Yeah, it looks like Taylor Lawrence could hold on into the final turn. Richard Holmes Williams, Tractor Boy, is looking for the inside line. The grip out of the final corner as they come across the line. Taylor Lawrence holds on just ahead of Richard Holmes Williams, who sets the fastest lap of the race on the final lap, a 47.9, 8/10 of a second faster than Taylor Lawrence. Jamie King and Will Howarth are battling out for third spot at the moment. Cam Harris all over the back of Will Howarth. Well, we see Jamie King comes across the line in third, just ahead of Will Howarth. Cam Harris, who fell off earlier on in the race at turn number 5, managed to remount ahead of Brandon Pearl, who will come across the line in 6th position, ahead of Ian Jackson. And that is our runners and riders for the race, the Extreme 200s. Unfortunately, we had 7 riders not starting it, and David Wills and Harvey Claridge pulled into the pits. So unfortunate result there for Richard Holmes Williams at the start of the race, pulling off the circuit or maybe having a bit of a moment going down. But it looks like we have had Taylor Lawrence taking the race win ahead of Richard Holmes Williams, which was an absolute brilliant result, Dan.
Well, it's a great result so far, and well, Richard Holmes Williams is going to take that confidence going into the next set of races. That was the second last of the second set of races. We went to lunch before the final 2 race 2s of the afternoon. Now this is going to be the final race 2 of the afternoon. The Mini F1 sidecars will be heading out on circuit in just a few moments' time. Then we'll be getting underway after that with a full rerun of the race sets, starting with the AC40 rookies. So we'll be bringing you all of that over the course of this afternoon. Thank you for joining us on Motorsport Radio on the Cool Fab Racing website. This is live coverage of Cool Fab Racing Round 2 of the 2019 series, and you can keep in touch at Cool Fab Racing, at M Sport Radios on Twitter using the hashtag CoolFab. Get in touch, let us know what you're enjoying so far, who you think is going to be doing so well over the course of this afternoon's races. You know, who you tip for a particular result. Let us know how much you're enjoying the action. My name's Dan Martin, alongside me Liam Hodgins. We've got plenty of action still to come. The Mini F1 sidecars, an 8-lap race in prospects, maybe shortened slightly. They don't use the full circuit, they use the outfield circuit here at Red Lodge. Still going to be pretty exciting. And yesterday, it was one of the closest results we've had for a sidecar race in quite a while.
Yeah, absolutely. It was a very close result. Towards the end of the race, we had Mick Williams with 3 laps to go, holding about a 4-second lead. But as they got into bag markers, you had Jack Walters close the gap, and it was a couple of tenths in it as they crossed the line. Very close indeed. And we're hoping for more of the same in race number 2.
Well, certainly hoping for more of the same. They get out onto circuit now and head out onto their green flag lap. It will be a 8-lap race in prospects, about 38-second-ish laps for most of our riders out there, and Liam Hodgins has the grid.
Yeah, so starting in pole position, we have championship leader Mick Williams on sidecar number 26, ahead of his championship rival at the moment, Jack Walters, on sidecar number 2, starting in 2nd position. Mick Leo on cart number 44 is in 3rd, ahead of Mark Parker on 230 in 4th position. On row number 3, we have 127 of John Hosker starting in 5th spot, ahead of number 46, that's Simon Ibbotson on the number 6 starting position. Adrian Ems on bike number 76 starting in 7th place, and ahead of Paul Coulters Jr., who had a fantastic result, making his way up through the field as the race went on. So that is your starting grid for the start of the 2019 Cool Fab round number 2, race number 2 here at Red Lodge.
The riders and the sidecar passengers prime themselves on the grid. The last minute stretches, making sure they're comfortable, ready into position. And as we get ready to go, the red lights are on. A bit of creeping from Jack Walters. He gets underway. Everyone gets through cleanly off the start, and Jack Walters leads this race. A bit of a touch with Mick Williams going into turn 1 for the first time, but the number 2 of Jack Walters is in number 1 position, leading this race through to turn 7 for the first time out of 8. Mick Williams into 2nd, 3rd. Being challenged is the number 44, Mick Lee, but through has gone Mick Williams with a late move up the inside at turn 7, the left-handed hairpin. Jack Walters back down to 2nd, being challenged by the bright yellow number 44 of Mick Lee. Further back, there's a slow sidecar at the back reaches of the circuit. Can't see who that is, but as they all make their way over the line for the first time, the sidecar is underway and is starting to make more progress. So Mick Williams leads ahead of Jack Walters. Mick Lee is ahead of Mark Parker and John Hosker. Adrian Ems is in 6th ahead of Simon Ibbotson, and Paul Quarters Jr. is the one not to cross the line. So it's the number 24, which is the issues. But
we've had a passenger just fall off the car at the moment, and the driver is further up the track. So not quite sure what happened there. I wasn't sure if there's contact, but the passenger is running towards the driver at the moment. So we may have them remounting any second now. Not sure, but it's yeah, I've never seen a sidecar passenger have to run that far.
Well, it happens from time to time, but as they make their way through the final corners now, Adrian Ems in 6th place, doesn't really fancy being in 6th place for much longer, is fighting away with Simon Ibbotson for 5th, heading into turn 1, can't quite make the move done. Close, but not quite close enough. Meanwhile, battle for 2nd, 3rd and 4th is a pretty close one as well. Mick Lee was initially 2nd, Jack Quarters is in 3rd, very close as they make their way towards the final part of this course. Side by side, heading into the final 2 corners, it's a tight right and a tight left. The number 44 just keeps the nose ahead, but Jack Quarters going to get a good run out of the final corner. Not quite good enough though, stays in 3rd.
Yeah, just a wee update of the passenger and driver incident. It was John Hosker that lost a passenger, but they were both back in the race, sitting in 7th position at the moment. So Jack Walters is putting a lot of pressure on Mick Lee. Didn't quite catch the incident myself of how Mick Lee got up into 2nd position there, but at the front of the field it is Mick Williams showing the prowess that only Mick Williams can show, with a 36.30 second lap time, extending that lead at the top of the field, with Jack Walters harassing the back of Mick Lee as they come into the final turn. Now can we see Mick, or can we see Jack Walters getting a good run as he come across the line? We've got Mick Lee blocking as they head into turn number 1. This is a fantastic race for 2nd position.
And it's also changed for 5th place. Adrian Ems is now ahead of Simon Ibbotson. Through the final corner they go. The number 76 is just ahead of 46. And it's only 0.345 of a second, so close for 5th place as well. 4 laps to go. Mick Williams with a 36.189 is the fastest rider out there so far, with passenger the number 26 completing the 5th lap of this race. Still Mick Lee versus Jack Walters, that's going on. Jack Walters and passenger really throw it over the curb, can't get close enough. Mick Lee and the 44 machine is dominant in that 2nd place at the moment, using all the lines to keep the position so far. Mark Parker and Adrian Ems, no, Jack Walters, Mark Parker is in 4th place at the moment. Adrian Ems still fighting away with Simon Ibbotson. John Husker and Paul Quarters Sr. still circulating, so all of our riders are still out there. Battle for 2nd place, though, again closing in.
Yeah, Mick Williams is coming across the line just at the moment to start the penultimate lap of the race. Really the Mick Williams show as they put in the fastest lap of the race once again, a 36.1.
And a pump for John Husker. John Husker pulling it back into the paddock with a couple of laps left to go. Retirement in the 2nd sidecar race of the weekend, I am afraid. But Mick Williams, you just mentioned, 36.152, just gets faster and faster and faster. Side by side again, Adrian Ems having to fight off Simon Ibbotson, and he can't resist. Simon, the 46 machine, goes through once more, so into 5th place once again. That proceeds. Mick Williams receiving the final lap flag. 1 whole lap to go. 2nd place, Mick Lee versus Jack Walters. This is going to go right to the flag as well, Liam. It's going to be very close. Can they make it through? They're side by side. The number 2 on the inside. He's being pushed out onto the grass and still can't make it through.
Oh, we've got Mick Lee running a little bit wide through number 1. Up the inside comes Jack Walters at turn 2. Just pushes Mick Lee towards the edge of the circuit. That is Jack Walters into 2nd position. Mick Lee unfortunately ran wide as the passenger looked behind, just going into turn number 1. So as we've got Mick Williams coming through the final corner, we have Mick Williams coming across the line to take the 5th win of the season, the 2nd this weekend. Fantastic ride by them. We've got Jack Walters and Mick Lee battling for 2nd spot. Can Mick Lee put a final last lap lunge into the final turn? No, they cannot. It's going to be Jack Walters picking up another 2nd place ahead of Mick Lee, who rounds out the podium positions once again. That's 5 third places in a row for Mick Lee, but still once again putting a lot more pressure on 2nd place Jack Walters in these ever growing, or ever exciting sidecar races. Mark Parker on the 230 sidecar comes past the line in 4th spot ahead of Simon Ibbotson. Adrian Ems put up a valiant effort to keep the top 5 position, but comes across the line in 6th ahead of Paul Quarters Jr. and John Hosker, who unfortunately lost a passenger throughout the race, but they managed to remount, pulled into the pits with 4 laps to go.
Well, maybe they had enough with losing the passengers. It's a shame it's a retirement, but the number 26 is the winner, clear winner, Mick Williams, 12.497 seconds ahead of Jack Quarters. Jack Quarters and Mick Lee, though, that was half a second in it between the pair of them. Mark Parker, a clear lap ahead of Simon Ibbotson, with Adrian Ems with company in 5th and 6th. Paul Quarters Jr. That was a good race, and there will be more good racing to expect from the Mini F1 sidecars just a few hours when they're out for the final race of the day. And that is it for the racing, for the second set of racing. But that's not it, really. We've got a whole third set of racing to come, starting with the AC40 rookies, which will be out onto circuit in just a few moments' time. They will be followed by the Mini GP70s. The AC40 Pros will be third out of the box. Pit by 140 and Moto teams will once again thunder around the track for some more brilliant racing, followed by the Junior LC40 Elites, Senior Mini Motos, the Mini GP50s, the Extreme 200s, and then finally, to end the weekend, the Mini F1 sidecars. And well, that might be it for the second set of racing, but that's not it for the racing this afternoon. Thank you for tuning in. This is the live second round of the 2019 Cool FAB-Racing British Mini Bike Championship.
This is Cool FAB-Racing on the road to MotoGP.
And just like that, back out to circuit come the AC40 rookies. They start to feel out some more grip. It's been a challenging day for weather today. It started out dry, it then rained very heavily, and then it started to lighten up, and then it rained again, and now it's dry and a bit blustery, but it's clear, and there's a dry line on the circuit. A bit tricky for some of our young riders to find the limits of grip, but they're going to get plenty of opportunities. Thank you for joining us. This is live coverage of round 2 of the 2019 Cool FAB-Racing British Mini Bike Championships. Liam Hodgins alongside me, Dan Marr, and we've got plenty of fantastic racing to come from the AC40 rookies. A full grid for 2019. And here's Liam with the grid.
Yes, so we will have Archie Gibbs starting race number 3 for the AC40 rookies in pole position once again. He managed to win race number 2 earlier on in the day in tricky conditions, as you said, Dan, ahead of Ollie Sims and Blake Wilson. That was the top 3 from race number 2 earlier on. As we say, Blake Wilson will be starting in second spot on bike number 108, ahead of Ollie Sims heading row number 2 on bike number 73. Luke Fitchett and on bike number 96 in 4th spot. Brandon Keane on bike 333 in 5th position, ahead of William Harris in 6th spot. Harry Payne rounds out row number 4 with bike number 11, ahead of Jacob Stevenson on bike number 67. Marco Holt will be starting this race in 9th spot on bike number 31, ahead of Luke Schofield on bike number 25. That is your top 10. In 11th spot, we have Max Wedity on bike 110 on row number 6, ahead of Archie O'Brien on bike number 91. In 13th position, unlucky for some, but hopefully not for Josh Williams, on bike number 78, heading row number 7, ahead of Wilson Dilks on bike number 85. In 15th position, on bike number 20, is Casey Sperry on row number 8, ahead of Callum Maxwell, who'll be starting from 16th spot on bike number 4. Arnie Carr is next up on bike number 83 and 17th, ahead of Noah Gullery on bike number 41 in 18th position. Chloe Sewell will be next up in 19th on bike 101. Starting off the row number 10, ahead of your 20th runner and rider for today's AC40 Rookies race number 3 of the weekend at round 2 at Red Lodge Cool FAB-Racing 2019 is going to be Bailey Lawrence.
Well, it's going to be a great race for them, the third and final race of the day for the AC40 rookies. Had some very close, very exciting racing over the first 2 races. I think we're going to be predicting more of the same, Liam, are we not?
Oh, absolutely, Dan. The AC40 rookies throughout Clandau and, of course, so far here at Red Lodge has produced some of the best racing we've seen. And they're very young, hungry riders out there in the circuit. Now, the track conditions are still a little bit damp, a little bit patchy. And as we've spoken to a few riders throughout the weekend, these conditions can sometimes be the worst because it's still a little bit greasy. You don't know if it's going to be dry, if it's going to be wet. What you really want sometimes is either going to be bone dry or fully wet. But at the moment, we're looking very much forward to some fantastic racing action from these young riders.
They look towards the starting lights. It's not when the lights come on, it's when the lights go out. They go out now. A good start from the front row, better start from the second row. Ollie Sims and Luke Fitcher make the best rub of the green with the start of the race. All heading into turns 1 and 2 for the first time. It's going to get a bit tight through the left and the right. The chicane is a big curb where a few people have a bit of a touch, but they do manage to make it through successfully. So, great start for everyone. Archie Gibbs and Blake Wilson made predictably a decent start, and the top two already gapping the rest of the field. Third place is a very good scrap at the moment. A few riders just going to get working with each other to try and get themselves up the order in a great way, but everyone is off and underway safely, which is exactly what we want to see. 8 laps in prospect, Liam, and they've got time to build into this race.
Yeah, as you said, 8 laps indeed. 8 laps for everyone to try and catch Archie Gibbs, who is often running at the front of the field. We had a great start by Luke Fitchett, moving his way into what seems to be second position, as Ollie Sims and Blake Wilson ran a little bit wide at turn at number 1. As I say that, Ollie Sims has moved up to second spot ahead of Blake Wilson. Brandon Keane from further down the grid on bike 333 is in 4th position, not in Brandon Keane, but Brandon Keane is in 4th position. Luke Fitchett from 4th on the grid has dropped down 1 place ahead of William Harris in 6th spot. Max Wedity in 7th, Harry Payne in 8th, ahead of Jacob Stevenson in 9th, and Luke Schofield in 10th position at the moment. But as we look towards the back straight, Ollie Sims is trying ever so hard to close the gap up to Archie Gibbs, but he can't do it at the moment. Archie Gibbs is increasing the lead ever so slightly.
The gap is only a second between those two for now, so it's time still to build into it, as we often say. Brandon Keane 4th place and Luke Fitchett 5th place. That's the closest thing at the moment. It's going to be side by side heading into the final corner. And as they make their way, in fact they were just side by side, didn't quite need to go the full way through, just maybe a signal of intent saying that he is challenging. But Brandon Keane and Luke Fitchett fighting. 0.239 was the gap on that last lap. 1.171 is the gap between Archie Gibbs and Ollie Sims on that second lap. 6 up to go, so having to put a bit of thinking time into it. A great scrap going on a little further back. Max Revity in 7th is being challenged by Harry Payne and Jacob Stevenson. They make their way through the mid part of this circuit onto the back straight, getting into each other's slipstream. A bit of a push in that direction as well, so that'll give them a few extra miles per hour, which can be key in these battles.
Yeah, as you were saying, there was a great battle further down the grid. Max Wedity, Harry Payne, Jacob Stevenson just covered by a blanket. 1 second between them for 7th, 8th and 9th. As we look further down the field, we've got Joshua Williams, Marco Holt and Archie O'Brien having a great scrap for the smaller points positions, but nonetheless there's some valuable points positions at the same time. New fastest lap of the race goes to our race leader Archie Gibbs on bike number 3 with a 53.8. That has increased the gap ahead of Ollie Sims to 1.6 seconds, so he's taken half a second out of the boy in second place there. Blake Wilson in 3rd spot ahead of Brandon Keane in 4th. Luke Fitchett still can't make a move on Brandon Keane for 4th position just yet. William Harris in 6th, but Max Wedity is in 7th, as we just said, just ahead of Harry Payne. Jacob Stevenson next up, and Casey Spady rounds out the top 10, Dan.
Not a bad top 10 at all, that very consistent. These are some of the young riders we are going to be looking for, maybe to start putting in that championship challenge in the next round or so. But 5th place, Brandon Keane, Luke Fitchett 4th and 5th. They're again scrapping side by side into the final corner this time. Much later braking for the number 96 machine. That's of Luke Fitchett. So Brandon is behind Luke now. 4th now going to Luke Fitchett. 5th for Brandon Keane. They're swapping rides. And one of them, in fact, manages to jump over, goes over some kind of braking zone, miss a foot. They didn't go off the bike or anything. The bike is still riding, but to lose a bit of time. So Brandon has made a bit of a mistake, which isn't good. He's lost a few positions, unfortunately.
Yeah, it looked like he ran off the edge of the circuit ever so slightly, and as he came back on, he just hit the sort of rut between the grass and the tarmac area. Flicked him out of the sea a little bit, but he stayed on the bike or two, but thankfully still in the race. He can still get some good points. We see the marshals running across the track. I'm not quite sure from this distance who that is, but we will find out very shortly when we have a bit more information. Looking further down the field at the moment, there's a great scrap going on for, as we said earlier on, for 7th position. Max Wedity, Harry Payne were covered by a couple of tenths of a second. We've just got Stevenson just falling off the back of that group, with Casey Spady catching ever so slightly and moving. Luke Schofield is next up ahead of Josh Williams, of Luke Schofield, Jay O'Brien in 13th, ahead of Marco Holt and Wilson Dilks, who rounds out our not points finishers, but our points scoring positions at the moment, as we've got some riders making moves into turn number 2, so they're ever slow slightly. There's some moves coming through the field top to bottom, so keep an eye out on that. But Archie Gibbs sets a new fastest lap of the race with 5 laps to go. So Archie Gibbs at 53.681. That is nearly 2 seconds, yes, get this, 2 seconds faster than Ollie Sims in second place on that. Wilson will be putting a little bit of pressure on the number 73 rider. Luke Fitchett has been given a bit of a gap between himself and Brandon Keane, with Brandon Keane making a bit of a mistake earlier on. William Harris is trying to close the gap on 5th position, and as we look outside the commentary box window, the rider that did have a bit of an issue a couple of laps ago seems to be back on and back in the race. So they did go down, they just pulled off the edge of the circuit, and they seem to be back in the race, which is all good that we have all the runners and riders just there. So very consistent lap times coming in from Archie Gibbs, our race leader. The gap over Sims, so unfortunately Ollie Sims is dropping down the order. He's down to 14th, down to 15th. Not quite sure what happened there, but that means Blake Wilson and Luke Fitcher are back into the podium positions and battling it out for second position. So that's a shame for Ollie Sims dropping down the field there, so we might keep an eye on him to see if he's back in the race. William Harris has moved up to 4th spot. Brandon Keane still 5th after an earlier incident after he ran off the circuit. Archie Gibbs crosses the line once again to start a new lap. Very consistent lap times coming in from a race leader at 53.8 that last lap, extending the lead. That'll be up to roughly about 10 seconds ahead of bike number 108. That is Blake Wilson. Luke Fitchett is still all over the back of the next rider, so Archie Gibbs comes across the line, takes the checkered flag. Archie Gibbs stands on the bike, nearly pops a wheelie. Archie Gibbs, a fantastic ride from the young number 3 rider there, as we get a battle coming across the line for second spot. Is it Luke Fitchett? Is it Blake Wilson? It's going to be very close as they come across the line. We will see that any second now. Blake Wilson looks like he's going to hold it just ahead of Luke Fitchett. William Harris is next up in 4th spot, and Brandon Keane in 5th position just there. So we've got Max Wedity hopefully coming across the line in 6th place, as the checkered flag continues to wave as Dave Stevenson 5 seconds ahead of Blake Wilson, who just held off Luke Fitchett for our second spot by only 600ths of a second. So as we say goodbye to the AC40 rookies from the second round here at Red Lodge, the 2019 FAB-Racing. Moving over to race number 3, that's going to be in the Mini GP70s, and if we've got anything to look forward to, it's going to be the Mini GP70s after what happened earlier on in the day and what's been happening so far in the weekend, Dan.
Been very, very busy, very action-packed for the Mini GP70s. We've had controversy, collisions, we've had rain and more rain. And after all of that, that's only been 2 races. We've got 1 more to go. So this is going to be an absolute barnstormer of a race. Thank you for tuning in. You're listening to live coverage of round 2 of the 2019 FAB-Racing British Minibike Championships, live from Red Lodge. Liam Hodgins and Dan Marr bringing you all the action this afternoon. And as the bikes head out onto circuit for their green flag lap, this will be a fantastic racing prospect. Sullivan Mounsey very eager to get it onto the circuit, and will certainly be looking to make a few good results. Sullivan having some great racing over the last few years, and will be looking forward to some more great results in the next few race meetings. But for now, 1 more race to go. The track really is getting to a good state now, Liam, and these GP70s have had a fair try at starting races today, so they should all be pretty tuned up to getting the clutches and everything at the right level.
Yes, absolutely, Dan. As you said earlier on, we had a couple of goes at starting race number 2 earlier, but the Mini GP70s seem to be the unfortunate class that had stoppages due to rain falling constantly. Wasn't quite sure what was going to happen. Riders going down because of the rain, but fortunately we have at least a big grid of riders here today. So just remember what happened in race number 1 earlier on. Evan Belford soaked up all the pressure that everyone else seemed to throw at him, managed to hold it on track to take the race win ahead of Ryan Hitchcock and James Cook, who was the winner of race number 1 yesterday, where Evan Belford and Ryan Hitchcock completed the podium positions. Just remember, James Cook is the brother of CEV Moto 3 race competitor Max Cook, so he's racing over there in Valencia at the moment. So James Cook is unfortunately taking the UK weather to deal with here at Red Lodge, while his brother Max Cook soaks up the Spanish sunshine. So we've got the bikes ready on the grid for race number 3, and it's going to be Evan Belford, the winner of race number 2, a little bit earlier on, who leads them away for their green flag lap ahead of yesterday's race winner James Cook. Eddie O'Shea, who was our early championship leader from round number 1, starting 3rd. Ryan Hitchcock in 4th spot ahead of number 48, that is Ollie Walker, starting in 5th position. Dylan Mellor in 6th spot on bike number 31 ahead of Bailey. Stuart Campbell on bike number 99 on row number 4 ahead of Emmanuel Brunton on bike number 93, starting in 8th spot there. And 9th is Owen Mellor on bike 130 ahead of Kyle Payne, running at the top 10 on bike number 25. Alfie Davidson in 11th spot ahead of Mason Johnson on bike 808. Harrison Crosby next up in 13th on bike number 69, who was producing some great rides in the Mini GP 50 class earlier on today. And he's starting just ahead of number 57, that is Johnny Garness. Sullivan Mounsey is next up on bike 144 in 15th spot ahead of Thomas Gomez on bike number 98. Saffron Watley next up in 17th ahead of Carter Brown on bike number 37. Joe Fadiger in 19th spot, and running at the top 20 is Jack Kirsch on bike number 96. Rossi Brown 21st on the grid on bike number 81, and running out the runners and riders is Jamie Woodcock.
We brace ourselves for the 3rd and final Mini GP70 race of the weekend. Revving, getting the clutch at Rising Point, they're underway. A great start from pole position by Evan Belford, absolute slingshot of a start. 2nd place is James Cook. Eddie O'Shea getting into the mix, losing a position that looks like to Ryan Hitchcock, so Hitchcock up to 3rd. 4th place at the moment, Eddie O'Shea. 5th is number 31, that will be Dylan Mellor, and then looking down to 5th place, Bailey Stuart Campbell as well. There's a couple of riders who've gone off, can't see who that is, so we'll let you know if we get any more information. But race continues for the meantime, and Evan Belford already under pressure, significant pressure from James Cook, heading towards the final few corners for the first time. Looks over the right hand shoulder, knowing the pressure's there. James Cook is going to cause some problems in this race, you feel. Over the line, 52, 44 and 43. Ryan Hitchcock in 3rd, James Cook 2nd, but 1st place is Evan Belford. So as they made their way through the chicane for the 2nd time out of 12, and really Evan Belford already causing some a bit of a hold-up perhaps, but some very good defensive riding all at the same time.
Yeah, Ryan Hitchcock is the one to keep an eye out on at the moment on bike number 43. He's all over the back of James Cook, looking down to the bottom end of the back straight, lining James Cook up for a pass potentially. Not quite yet as they go through the bottom end of the circuit. James Cook putting the pressure on race leader Evan Belford. So far this weekend it seems to be the Belford Cook show, but at the moment Ryan Hitchcock seems to be all over the back of Cook, with Eddie O'Shea, our early championship leader, closing the gap ever so slightly. So it's a group of 4 at the front, an 8-wheeler with, of course, Bailey Stuart Campbell and Dylan Mellor in a battle for 5th and 6th position by themselves. Through the twisty stuff in the middle section of the track, we've got a potential pass by Eddie O'Shea, lining himself up through turn number 5.
Mentioned Eddie O'Shea, fastest lap on that last lap, a couple of tenths quicker than Belford and the rest, which isn't much, but it is enough to keep onto the back of the field. But Belford, Cook, Hitchcock, O'Shea, that's your top 4. Bailey Stuart Campbell is ahead of Dylan Mellor. Emmanuel Brinton is in 7th ahead of Ollie Walker. Owen Mellor and Alfie Davidson round out the top 10 as it stands currently. But Belford, fantastic defensive rider, leading from the front, holding the position. James Cook looks one way then the other, but Evan Belford knows exactly where to put the bike just to prevent that move being made at the moment. So Belford, Cook with the fastest lap now. Hitchcock and O'Shea a couple of bike lengths back, which isn't a lot, but it is enough just to give them some breathing space as it stands with 52 ahead of 44.
Yes, absolutely. Ryan Hitchcock looks like he's just dropping off the back of Max Cook and Evan Belford ever so slightly. Eddie O'Shea looks like he's got a good run onto the back straight. Will he be lining up a move on Ryan Hitchcock into the bottom turn? He does it. He's up to third place. That is Eddie O'Shea up to third ahead of Ryan Hitchcock. Great move by the youngster there. Now he's going to try and bridge the gap to James Cook as the gap has started to open up ever so slightly. But if anyone can, Eddie O'Shea can.
Eddie O'Shea certainly knows how to race hard and fair. Over the line into third place, confirmed then Eddie O'Shea with the new fastest lap, 47.1. But no, Bailey Stewart Campbell sets the new fastest lap, 47.0. Is catching up to the back of Ryan Hitchcock. He's now only a second behind, and really coming onto the back of this train. Evan Belford soaking up so much pressure, taking a very tight line in the turn 5 hairpin. James Cook, a wider sweeping line, but hasn't got the momentum to catch up in the slipstream, heading towards a quick turn 7. He's starting to make inroads, could make a potential move up the brakes, but it is not quite enough at this moment. But he's closing with every available opportunity, and the run is not forthcoming.
Yeah, you can watch Bailey Stewart Campbell. He has so much confidence flicking that bike from left to right through the tight stuff. As you can see, out the final turn, he's got a great run as we've got
problem from
Hitchcock. He sets up coming out the final turn, not quite sure what's happened there. So looking down at the bike, looks like it could be a trouble towards the rear end of the bike. Not sure what that is. That's a shame for Ryan Hitchcock, as he was putting in a great effort, sitting in the 4th spot. But that has let Bailey Stewart Campbell off the hook and looking to catch Eddie O'Shea on bike number 144.
Well, a shame for Ryan Hitchcock, about to be passed by Emmanuel Brinson. Through goes Emmanuel, the number 93. Ollie Walker's now managed to get ahead of Owen Mellor and Alfie Davidson. So an update for 8th place as it stands. The race leader's just about to pass another rider in this race. They get through cleanly, so no trouble for those two. James Cook's the one with the fastest lap, but Evan Belford's the one with the track position, currently leading this race still. 6 laps to go, 6 laps are completed. Belford and Cook just 0.278 between each other. Eddie O'Shea in 3rd, 4th for Bailey Stewart Campbell. Dylan Miller into 5th, Emmanuel Brinton in 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th and 10th is Ollie Walker, Owen Mellor, Alfred Davidson and Johnny Garness, the 57. Now making progress, under attack though from a rider a bit further back, and can just make it through.
Yes, the battle between Ollie Walker, Owen Mellor, Alfie Davidson, Johnny Garness has been going on for a few laps, and now is starting to heat up ever so slightly. A great ride from Johnny Garness, starting 14th. Hasn't really shown his hand in this class so far this weekend, but moving well inside the top 10 and putting a lot of pressure on Alfie Davidson, who's chasing Owen Mellor and Ollie Walker.
And Ollie Walker's not the only one getting involved. Johnny Garness was passed by Harrison Crosby on that particular race, but Bailey Stewart Campbell now is into 3rd place, past Eddie O'Shea, was almost a second quicker on that last lap, is absolutely determined to join the battle for the race lead. Evan Belford's going faster than he's ever gone before. James Cook is really stuck behind him and still cannot make the move through. 5 laps to go, 4.5 laps to go. He's got to start really thinking about forcing the position.
Yes, so we've got Owen Mellor and Harrison Crosby knocking down Ollie Walker. He's gone from 7th down to 10th. Alfie Davidson still in 9th spot, so it's a great scrap going on for position number 7 there. Towards the bottom end of the circuit, the group of 5 riders are putting in a show for the fans here today. So to come across the line, it's going to be the start of lap number 9. Bailey Stewart Campbell, new fastest lap of the race, nearly 1 second quicker than our top 2. Evan Belford and James Cook are going to start having to look behind them now, because Bailey Stewart Campbell won a 46.496, 1.3 seconds back of James Cook, but with a few laps still remaining of the race, he still has a chance to close in on the top 2.
It's not just a chance to close in on the top 2, he is closing in on the top 2. Belford is really holding up James Cook now. He's just sitting behind, maybe waiting to pounce, but the opportunity, you feel, is not going to happen unless he's going to force it, and he's gone a little bit wide as Evan Belford. James Cook smells the position. He's going to try and force it, right then left, can't make it through. They've got another rider in this race to get their way around as they head towards turn 1 now. This is going to be critical. Evan Belford goes a little deeper. James Cook's up the inside, the wheels up the inside. He has to brake a little bit more to avoid hitting the back of the number 52 rider, but all of this means Bailey Stewart Campbell's come to play now, ladies and gentlemen. It's a 3-way fight for the race lead. and there's a potential amount of feistiness. The rider is still ahead of the three of them as they battle away. They dispose of them one after each other. Bailey Stewart-Campbell's going up the inside of James Cook. Can't quite make it work. He's still side by side with him though into turn 7. And for a brief second then Bailey Stewart-Campbell was our man in the hot seat. Couldn't make it work. But 2 1/3 laps to go. Evan Belford has been given a respite. It is James Cook in second place and only just holding off Bailey Stewart-Campbell in third. It's no longer a battle for the race lead, it's a battle for second place.
Yes, unfortunately James Cook and Bailey Stewart-Campbell did get held up by the bag marker towards the bottom end of the circuit at the end of the back straight, but they've closed the gap right back up. This is an inspired ride by Bailey Stewart-Campbell, who has worked his way through the field up to third spot, right on the coattails of James Cook and early race leader Evan Belford as they make the way onto the back straight. Once again, there's another 2 back markers just in front of them. Can they clear the back markers quickly? Can James Cook get ahead of Evan Belford by using the back markers, or can Bailey Stewart-Campbell use them to his advantage and try and work his way not only to second but to first spot? As they carve their way through the back markers, we've got Evan Belford, James Cook and Bailey Stewart-Campbell getting past the first one, coming through the final corner. They're powering out the last one, very close for James Cook. Round the outside goes Bailey Stewart-Campbell. Final lap of the race. This is going to be an absolute exponentially great lap. Nearly lost my words there.
Well, at 52, Evan Belford is breathing. He's breathing very slowly. He's zen aboard the machine at the moment. James Cook second, Bailey Stewart-Campbell still third. Then nose to tail, absolutely no inch is going to be given. Belford runs slightly deep. James Cook has got a bit of an advantage. Bailey Stewart-Campbell looks to go around the outside at 7. Cannot make it done. There's still line astern. Belford has just about got this sealed. Just 2 and a bit corners to go. And James Cook is going to try and get a run. Can he make it up towards the final corner for the final time? It's going to have to be a run out the corner, but it isn't going to be. Evan Belford crosses the line, takes a victory, but only just from James Cook. It was 82 thousandths of a second between Belford and Cook, first and second. Bailey Stewart-Campbell is third. Fourth for Eddie O'Shea. Dylan Mellor comes home in fifth. So a great result there. And the 3 riders, Evan, James and Bailey, all waving at each other and clapping. They really enjoyed that. They're giving themselves a thumbs up. They really enjoyed that. Even high-fiving on the way through. They really enjoyed that race, and what a great effort that was from Evan Belford. Fantastic defending, but there was no weaving in the brake zones. There was no weaving up and down the circuit. It was plain old positioning of the bikes properly. He knew exactly where he had the measure of James and Bailey. So Evan Belford is your race winner. 12 laps, and it was only 82 thousandths of a second ahead of James Cook. Bailey Stewart-Campbell was third, ahead of Eddie O'Shea, Dylan Mellor, Manuel Brinton, Owen Mellor, Harrison Crosby, Alfie Davidson and Ollie Walker. That is your top 10. And by joy, well, good race.
Yeah, but I think we're both running out of words to say about that race. It was one of those races that you've got to just look at and go, I can't believe I just witnessed something so incredibly good. Bailey Stewart-Campbell working his way through the field from about 8th on the grid or so, working his way up to 3rd spot, the fastest lap of the race at one point by nearly a second. James Cook harried Evan Belford all race long, but once again, Evan Belford, just like he did in the second race today, managed to soak up all of that pressure and led the whole race and kept until the win at the end.
Well, that was fantastic racing. They take the action to Clay Pigeon in just a few weekends' time. And that is it for the Mini GP70s. With that, we can take a breather here at Red Lodge.
There's loads of ways to follow the racing this season. Tune in live on the FAB-Racing Facebook page, on Twitter and on YouTube. Listen on motorsport.radio and on coolfabracing.com. on the road to MotoGP.
On the road to MotoGP, the official partner series to the Bennett's British Superbike Championship. This is Cool Fab Racing. Thank you for joining us. We are live at Red Lodge. Here we've got the third set of fantastic races from this weekend. 27 races over the course of a weekend. It's busy stuff here, Liam, but we've managed 20 so far, so feel like we might be able to do a few more. But the AC40 Pros are out next, and well, this is going to be another very intense but very, very fast-paced race.
Absolutely. As you said, we've had 20 races so far this weekend. I don't think we've had time to sit down yet. It's just been fast-paced. Lots of action on track as well, and of course we've got more of that coming from the AC40 Pros. As you may remember to our race earlier on today, there was a lot of action in that race, lots of different race leaders, and I'm hoping to see lots more this time round.
Well, as we are just underway with the green flag lap, they are just getting that last minute temperature into the tyres. Grids will line up Mason Foster and Samuel Munson on the front row of the grid. But Liam, how does the rest of the grid line up?
So we've got Ethan Sparks in third spot, row number 2 on the grid on bike number 62. Clayton Edmonds is next up on bike 146 in fourth spot. Finnan Werite rounds out the top 5 on bike number 11, ahead of Henry McCartney on bike number 31 in sixth spot. Charlie Huntingford is next up on bike number 76, ahead of Cameron Sewell on bike 100. Next up, ninth on the grid, bike number 99, is Warwick Brady on row number 5, ahead of Greg Marshall on bike 19. Holly Harris, who had a great race earlier on today, finishing in 7th, starts off row number 6, ahead of Aston Dean on bike 137. So 12 riders on the grid, 12 riders eager to get started. This is the AC40 Pros.
Well, they just get ready. The marshals are making sure that all the engines are on, revving as they should be. There's a couple of gaps on the grid. There's one for third place, one for fourth from the back. But we'll get to that in just a few moments' time. We look towards the red lights. Revs go up, they go out again. A good start from Mason Foster and Samuel Munson. Samuel Munson getting a great launch into second place. Can't quite get past, though. Mason Foster coming into the first couple of turns for the first time out of 9. This is a 9-lap race, and of course that may be pivotal because last time we had an AC40 Pro race, well, Mason Foster sadly lost the plot a bit. He had a few off-colour moments, a few spins up at the back end of the circuit. He's certainly going to be trying to redeem himself in this one, and so far, whilst leading, is doing so. Samuel Munson right on the back though, learning a lot from his initial season last season in the rookies and really taking his expertise and fantastic race pace and race skills into this category. So 1-2, Mason Foster and Samuel Munson. They're about to cross the line now. Third place is going to go the way of the rider Clayton Edmonds, Henry McCartney in fourth, Finnan Werite fifth, Charlie Huntingford and Cameron Sewell, Greg Marshall, Holly Harris. That's your top 9 with Aston Dean in 10th so far. Battle for the lead though, Liam, getting intense. Mason Foster, Samuel Munson, very, very close.
Yeah, absolutely, they are very close. It looks like Samuel Munson seems quite comfortable just behind Mason Foster at the moment. Now, you mentioned that there was a rider missing from third place on the grid. It looks like Ethan Sparks didn't take his grid position, which is unfortunate for Ethan because he's been having a great racing weekend. But as we look back towards the bottom end of the circuit, as I said, the Samuel Munson seems to be nicely hanging onto the coattails of Mason Foster. Mason Foster decides to put those words out of into the history books as he extends the gap at the top of the field to a 49.619, fastest lap of the race, extending the lead to 0.8 of a second, so 0.6 of a second faster than Samuel Munson on the previous lap. Clayton Edmonds in third spot.
Henry McCartney's in fourth, and fifth goes the way of Finnan Werite, fighting hard with Charlie Huntingford. 11 and 76 make their way towards turns 4 and 5. Left and then a right-handed hairpin. Quite a tricky corner off camber. A bit of a bump in there and they're side by side. Charlie Huntingford just about noses through onto the back straight, and through again goes Finnan Werite. So gains the position in one corner, loses it in another. Not ideal. Makes for good and entertaining racing nonetheless. And as they make their way into the next hairpin, turn number 8, putting a bit more load through the tyres. Again, they are absolutely nose to tail and side by side. Quick as you dare. They come up towards the line. We'll get confirmation of the order that they decide to be in just a moment. But Mason Foster, 49.4, 3 laps completed, 2.1 seconds ahead of Samuel Munson. More or less job done at this point. Clayton Emmons still third, but Henry McCartney fourth. Huntingford is now ahead of Finn and Werrity, but that's not going to be solved anytime soon. Into turns 2 and 3. And Charlie Huntingford has just got the pace to keep it ahead of Finn and Werrity, for now at least, Liam.
Yes, absolutely, Dan. Now, the gaps tend to be quite spread out at the moment throughout the field, apart from Charlie Huntingford and, of course, Finn and Werrity, who are chopping and changing every which way throughout every single corner that they can find throughout the entire lap. Got Mason Foster just about to complete lap number 4 at the moment, and he's been setting fastest lap after fastest lap as he comes to the final corner. Foot off the foot peg. I'm not sure if he had a moment there or he just likes to do that to get a bit of comfort into his right foot. Samuel Munson is now 3.5 seconds further back from Mason Foster. Clayton Edmonds comes across the line, slightly closing or pulling away from the number 4 or the 4th spot of Henry McCartney. Charlie Huntingford, Finn and Werrity come across the line as close as you dare. Still nose to tail in that battle for 5th position as they come through turn number 2. We've got Charlie Huntingford pulling a slight gap, but as I say that, we've got Finn and Werrity closing as you dare through turn number 5 over the bump, coming out the corner a bit unsettled, and we've got Cameron Sewell closing them down very quickly as well.
And a great battle going on between Greg Marshall and Holly Harris for 8th and 9th. They make their way into turn number 5, turning through the long right-hander, just keeping the momentum going. Holly Harris, the number 15 rider, all over the back of the number 19 rider, Greg Marshall, as they make their way onto the back straight. Holly really putting in a determined effort, trying to go up the inside, couldn't quite make the move stick, however. Mason Foster's now 5 seconds ahead of Samuel Munson. That's your update for the race lead with 5 laps completed. Edmonds remains in 3rd, 4th for McCartney, 5th for Huntingford and 6th for Finn and Werrity.
Yes, absolutely. There's a bag marker that seems to be just making their way through the field, mixing it up with Finn and Werrity and Charlie Huntingford. A lot of great battles through the field when they are close together. So as you said, we've got Greg Marshall, Holly Harris battling as they go through turn number 1. Greg Marshall just holding it for the moment, but Holly Harris all over the back of Greg Marshall through turn number 2. Turn number 3 at the moment, can he be setting up a move, trying to surprise Greg Marshall as they come through turn number 5. Not quite yet, coming out the corner over the bump at the moment into turn number 6 and along the back straight, where we could be seeing a bit of a traction game coming out the turn onto the back straight. Still nose to tail. Greg Marshall still holding it ahead of Holly Harris as a back marker is just getting out of the way, so they will be passing them ever so slightly, but we've got Holly Harris up the inside of Greg Marshall at the bottom end of the circuit through the right hander. Fantastic move there as Greg Marshall went a little bit wide. Holly Harris saw the opportunity to nip through as the door was just opened there.
Well, you leave the door open. Holly is going to take it. She's a very, very determined rider in order to make as many positions as she can. And Holly Harris then confirmed in 8th place. Great ride from the number 15 rider. Greg Marshall down to 9th. Still a great result. White Brady completes the top 10 for now. And with 2 laps to go, Mason Foster is off and into the distance. Absolutely. It is 9.2 seconds, 88 to 72. We've had a rider who stopped on the exit of turn number 5. They are up and they're looking with the marshal to try and get the bike restarted. So technical issue with that bike. Unfortunately though, doesn't look like it's going to be restarted. So a shame for the retiring rider. But Mason Foster is 9.2 seconds ahead of Samuel Munson. Clayton Edmonds is 17 seconds back. Henry McCartney into 4th. Finn and Werrity into 5th and 6th for Cameron Sewell. I fear it may be Charlie Huntingford who is retired, who was retired with a mechanical issue. So Holly Harris about to be promoted up to 7th place as well. So even more great points for Holly. White Brady to be promoted into the top 10 as well. 1 lap to go though, Liam, and Mason Foster is our race leader. He's doing so well, but he's just got a couple of other riders in this race just to pass. The only passing he's really done in this race. Yes,
absolutely. He's been out front ever since the start of the race. So is Mason Foster heads through turn number 5 into turn number 6, just clearing another bag marker. It looks like Holly Harris, who will be getting past in the next couple of moments as he does down the back straight. So it seems to be quite a strong outfield in this race number 3, quite different to what was happening in race number 2 earlier on today. But Mason Foster was a DNF of race number 2 earlier on, so he's putting that to rest, putting it in the history books, forgetting about it completely. As it comes down towards the final turn for the last time, it's going to be number 88 of Mason Foster coming through the final turn across the start-finish line. Mason Foster takes the race 3, number 1 for the AC40 Pros. We've got a long time to wait before we see the second position of Samuel Munson, who was just over 10 seconds behind your race winner of Mason Foster before the start of the last lap. So 12.3 seconds further back is Samuel Munson. Mason Foster just showing how dominant he can be when the dry conditions are out. So Clayton Edmonds across the line, 10.1 seconds further back from Samuel Munson in third position. Henry McCartney, Finn Werty, Cameron Silva waiting for them to come across the line any moment now. Henry McCartney finishes in fourth spot. Finn Werty, we're expected across the line just now for fifth place, does Cameron Sewell will end the race in sixth spot. So the last rider not to be lapped into this race as they cross the line now. Cameron Sewell finishes in sixth, ahead of Holly Harris, who picks up another seventh place today. Great ride by her. Just ahead of Greg Marshall, Warwick Brady in ninth spot, and Aston Dean rounding out the top 10. So dominant ride by Mason Foster, but once again, he tried to put to bed what happened in race 2.
Well, certainly put it to bed, and it's not going to come back out for a little while. The number 88, Mason Foster, resumes dominance in the Cool FAB-Racing Championships, and will be one to watch in the future, as of course are many of our very talented riders in this paddock. You're listening to live coverage of round 2 of the 2019 Cool FAB-Racing British Mini Bike Championships. We're live at Red Lodge. Thank you very much for getting in touch this morning and throughout the course of the afternoon. Don't forget, if you are trackside, please let all your family and friends know they can tune in to the action on the Cool FAB-Racing website and live on motorsport.radio. Plenty of ways to tune in. Plenty of ways, of course, to catch up with your races. If you happen to be racing in them, you want to hear what happens to everyone else in your race or what happened to the rest of the action, we've got a full archive of racing from Cool FAB-Racing going back as far as 2017, even summer 2016 on our website. Please head over, go and have a look. Great to see the progress of many of our young riders over the last few years. And speaking of progress of our younger riders, some of our older riders head out to the circuit now for the third and final race of the weekend for the Pit Bike 140 and Moto teams.
Yeah, so this is expected to be a great race, just like we had earlier on in the day when Ben Bailey picked up the race 2 win ahead of Richard Holmes Williams. Harvey Clyde completed the podium positions ahead of Jamie King and Blake Ansell, who we believe has gone home because of a bike issue from the previous race, which is a shame that we've lost Blake from not only the commentary box, but obviously from the racing as well. So as we got the bikes heading round towards the grid, then we've got a lot of riders out for this one, so we're expecting, Dan, this one to be just as close as ever.
Well, it will be a very close encounter no matter what happens. Of course, it's a shame to hear that Blake Ansell has gone home. It's great to have Blake in the commentary box with us over the course of the weekend. And if you weren't tuned into the action yesterday, we also had Joy Finsmart joining us in the commentary box yesterday. So great to see loads of new talent, not just out on circuit, but also up here on the mics from time to time. But the riders start to get prepared for the dummy grid. And one Mr. Bradley Ray is heading out on circuit. He didn't take part in the first race of the day today, which was the second race of the weekend. This was because it was wet, and whilst it might sound slightly silly, of course, for Brad, this is a bit of fun. He doesn't want to risk it, so Charlie Nesbitt just decided to ride into the back of him as a bit of a
I think that might have been Harvey Clyde just there.
And Simon Clouds, 133, is looking at the bottom of the bike. There might be a problem with that Moto Team machine. Master is going over to speak to him, but obviously it looks like they've cleared it up, so that's all good. But Bradley, yeah, so to finish off the story, didn't want to go out in this morning's wet encounter in case he injured himself. Obviously, if he injured himself, his sort of BSB run could be curtailed, so we don't want that. And he's out in the dry, so fingers crossed for a safe race for all of our riders out there. And in the meantime, we've gone out for the warm-up lap, and it is Liam Hodkins with the grid.
Yeah, so starting in pole position, we should have Richard Holmes Williams on bike 126, just ahead of earlier on's race winner Ben Bailey. Brad Ray next up in third spot, but Blake Ansell, who should have been in fourth, will not be taking part today, so he will be missing from the fourth position on the grid. Jamie King next up in fifth place, ahead of Harvey Claridge in sixth place there. Charlie Nesbitt, Spud Nesbitt on bike number 86 in seventh place. Will Howarth on bike number 96 in eighth spot, ahead of one of our other riders. Just completing the top 10 is Henry Meduse on bike number 55. We have Bernie Hook in 11th spot on bike 0. That is a big fat 0 right there. In 12th spot we have Ian Jackson on bike number 7, just ahead of Rob Petit in 13th spot. Unlucky for some, but not for all. John Petit is next up in 14th spot on bike 100, ahead of Alice Carradon Brown. Simon Clowes next up, having bike issues on the starting grid, but hopefully they're all sorted, ahead of Darren Anderson. Fraser Kinnaird next up, Callum Wybrow in 19th spot, Alistair Kinnaird in 20th, Daniel Gilbert in 21st, ahead of Keith Bolton, Vince Bailey in 23rd, Roger Monks in 24th, and running out the runners and riders for the starting grid is Trevor Jones.
A very large grid. We are missing, though, the fourth row, it looks like, so a few riders missing from this race. Obviously, we've spoken about Blake Ansell. I think I can't see if Brandon Perrell's on the grid. It'd be good to see if he was, but I'm not sure if he is. Anyway, they look towards the lights. We'll get to the bottom of all these mysteries and more as the race is underway now. Good start from the front. Jamie King did get a very good start, actually, and was trying to nose his way through into turn 1 for the first time, but Brad Ray leads this race, turns 2 and 3 for the first time. Good start from Harvey Claridge, but didn't quite make enough. He's in third place at the moment. Richard Holmes-Williams being a bit of an outlier at the moment in second place, but Ben Bailey also keeping up the top 4 in one. Quite tight line at the moment. There's 12 laps to go in this race. It's quite a long race, plenty of time for action, plenty of time for a lot of drama to happen. And as they make their way through turns 7 and 8 for the first time, clean start by everyone, Liam. This is exactly what we wanted to see. Brad Ray leads this race.
Absolutely, as you say, very clean indeed. Everyone through the first lap so far, nice and safely. Brad Ray leading the race as they come across the line to start. Lap number 2 of the race. Brad Ray across the line. Richard Holmes-Williams all over the back of Brad Ray. Harvey Claridge all over the back of Richard Holmes-Williams, as we had nearly a change for third position there. Ben Bailey looked up the inside of Harvey Claridge into turn number 2. Harvey Claridge cut him off, so the positions remain the same. Jamie King, a great start from the home hero in 5th spot. John Buckle 6th, moving up a couple of spots ahead of the first motor team rider, Will Howarth, in 7th place.
It's all getting a bit sour. Harvey Claridge and Ben Bailey nearly came to tears as they touched coming on the exit of turn number 5. They didn't fall off. There was no one hurt or anything, but it's not going to be a good start for them. Looking over his right shoulder is Brad Ray, looking over his left shoulder is Richard Holmes-Williams. They should be busy focusing at each other, really, because they're side by side coming over the line 1 and 2. Quick as you like. The official time was 0.114, but it was much less than that as it felt. Up the inside goes Richard Holmes-Williams, can't make the move stick, and it's Ben Bailey in third, holding on, closing into that battle. Harvey Claridge relegated to 4th place.
Yes, I should say, tractor boy Richard Holmes-Williams nearly ploughed his way through into first spot. And he has done it now. Brad Ray ran a little bit wide, looked to his right hand side as he sees Richard Holmes-Williams make his way up the inside. Ben Bailey now on the back of Brad Ray. Now, was that a bit of tactical movement from Brad Ray, just letting him pass to see? Oh, as he sets him up, so there was a bit of set-up action between the top 3 there as they went to the bottom end of the circuit. Looked like Brad Ray just sat up Ben Bailey, but it looks like Richard Holmes-Williams still in the lead of this race as they come towards the end of the lap, ticking off another lap as the back markers slowly approach across the start-finish line. As Richard Holmes-Williams ahead of Brad Ray. Ben Bailey setting the fastest lap of the race at 47.8 as the back marker is setting up, nearly trying to get out of the way of the leaders at the moment.
And of course this is a very large field, lots of stuff going on. John Buckle in 6th, ahead of Will Howarth, our leading moto team rider, in 7th. Henry Meduse and John Petit alongside Ian Jackson. That's your top 10. Simon Clowes has got underway, is still returning in the moto team 2nd place. Fraser Kinnaird in 12th, is 3rd in moto team.
Yes, Ben Bailey made a move on Brad Ray up the bottom end of the circuit at the end of the back straight. He's now into 2nd position. Brad Ray down to 3rd. Ben Bailey, today's earlier race winner, now all over the back of Richard Holmes-Williams. He'll be looking to make a move on Tractor Boy going into turn number 1. Got a great run out of the final turn, nearly made a move into the first corner. Just had to set up a little bit, but he's climbing all over the back of Richard Holmes-Williams for first place.
He's really trying just to be a bit patient. He does want to make a move, but he don't want to be too hasty. Brad Ray's sitting and watching what's going on in front and deciding, you know what, I don't need to get involved with this scrap. I've seen this all before. I know exactly how it's going to end. I'm just going to pick up the spoils. And he picks up his front wheel for good measure. But Holmes, Williams and Bailey, they're still 1 and 2. They're fighting tooth and nail, as they're going to be for the rest of the race, but they still can't quite force the move through. Looking at a couple of other battles further down the field, John Buckle and Will Howarth are enjoying a bit of a scrap for 6th and 7th so far. That's between a pit bike 140 and a moto team rider as well, a very different type of bike, fighting equally.
Yeah, Ben Bailey nearly lost the front. Glenn Falcon up the side of Tractor Boy. Richard Holmes Wells very close to taking both of them out. No wonder Brad Ray is sitting back and going, I don't want to get involved in this. These two are all over the back of each other, nearly taking the front wheel and losing the rear end as they go through the couple of turns. So Ben Bailey on towards the back straight once again. Brad Ray looking up the side of Ben Bailey, just holding back as they go through the bottom end of the circuit. The left-hander tightening up ever so slightly as they flick it right. Will Ben Bailey get the traction down earlier than Richard Holmes Williams? He nearly done the last lap to nip up the inside, but not quite as they approach the final turn of this lap. The last couple of laps we've had Ben Bailey getting great traction off the final turn. Will he do it this time? Not quite, as the back marker is split by the top three as they start another lap.
And starting not just another lap, but this is the halfway point in this race. Holmes Williams still leads Ben Bailey. Ben Bailey also with the fastest lap. Brad Ray does still complete the rostrum at the moment. Harvey Claridge in 4th. Jamie King is in 5th ahead of John Petit, just passing John Buckle for 6th. So Will Howarth in 8th, our leading moto team rider, with Ian Jackson and Henry Majuse your top 10. Simon Clowes, Fraser Kinnaird, Darren Anderson. The next 3 moto team riders, they're 11th, 12th and 13th. Tom White, Daniel Gilbert and Keith Bolton. That's your top 16. And it's all breaking loose for the battle for the lead. There's a load of other riders.
I think Ben Bailey's actually got the lead, nipped up the outside of Richard Holmes Williams at the bottom end of the circuit. Sorry to jump in there, Dan, but Ben Bailey looks like he's got the lead of the race. He has done ahead of Richard Holmes Williams. Brad Ray still in 3rd spot as they make their way through the back markers at the moment. So we've got plenty more racing action. Ben Bailey now leading ahead of Holmes Williams, and Brad Ray still all over the back of the top 2.
Well, Brad Ray is being very patient. There's 5 laps to go, so there's still plenty of time. There's a lot of other riders in this race making progress. John Buckle loses another position, this time to Will Howarth. So Will Howarth up to 7th place, going very well for the Moto team division at the moment. Considering they're not very well suited to the Red Lodge circuit, that's a very high up position. Expect them to be more
so
competitive at Clay Pigeon, but you say very close for the race lead. They're fighting side by side. Ben Bailey ahead of Richard Holmes Williams, and they're only just cut over another moto team rider. Brad Ray can smell blood. He pounces. He's all over the back of Richard Holmes Williams. Ben Bailey is maintaining the race lead, but only by the skin of his absolute teeth.
It was super close coming through the bottom end of the circuit. We had Richard Holmes Williams get a great run out at the bottom end, nearly touching as they pushed Richard Holmes Williams towards the edge of the track. Brad Ray must be thinking, I am not getting involved in this. They could be about to take each other, but fingers crossed it stays clean. It looks like Brad Ray's made it up to 2nd ahead of Holmes Williams at the end of the back straight. He has done. He's now right behind Bailey. So it's Brad Ray into 2nd, round outside of Bailey, not quite, as the back markers are getting pushed out of the way as well. This is starting to get a little bit rough.
Well, it's the last race of the weekend for them. They are pretty bored of just racing between themselves now, so they'll be a bit more aggressive. Not that that's a good thing, but Ben Bailey just has to hold off Brad Ray. No easy feat. He looks up the inside into turn 1, can't make it stick. 3 laps to go this time. There's still plenty of time to make a move, but Brad Ray is no longer in a waiting game. He wants this race victory. He's so much shorter out of turn number 5, working the chassis through the back straight and into the slipstream, bending down, crouching down. He's using that to good effect. He's got up the inside of turn 7. He's got the race lead. The number 28 of Brad Ray, BSB race winner in Cool Fab, many championships, takes the lead of this race. Richard Holmes Williams is going to capitalise on the Ben Bailey battle as well. They're with each other, they're weaving all around the back straight. He was struggling to keep the grip through the back wheel. They were waving at each other. Richard Holmes Williams is furious, absolutely furious with Ben Bailey, but remains in 3rd place for now.
Yeah, Ben Bailey riding like a man possessed out there at the moment. After Brad Ray came up the inside, he tried to nip up the inside of the tight right-hander, lost the back end very slightly, and we had Richard Holmes Williams getting cut off by Bailey there and sort of pointed towards his head, telling him to think a little bit. So it's heating up very much so out there with 2 laps to go. I say 2 laps to go, a lap and a half to go.
But in the Pit Bike 140 and Moto Team races, you have to keep a clean head. You have to keep a clear head because it's so frantic. There's so much traffic to use and work past other riders in this race. You've got to really work it cleverly. Brad Ray has done that. Let's be fair to him. He's about to come over the line to start the final lap of this race, the final lap of the weekend for them. 47.9 was his last lap, his best lap. Not as quick as Ben Bailey's fastest time, and Richard Holmes Williams is still 0.4 of a second behind at the moment. Will Howarth still leading Moto Team in 7th place.
Oh, they've touched. That was Ben Bailey and Richard Holmes Williams. Ben Bailey had a bit of a moment with Richard Holmes Williams just touching the back of his bike at the moment. So this is going down to the wire, the battle for second spot, as Brad Ray has made the smart move of getting into first place and clearing off. As Holmes Williams looks up the inside of Ben Bailey, he's pushed him slightly wide. That is Holmes Williams back into second place. Will Bailey make another move up the inside? He tries it into the tight right-hander, not quite. That has allowed Richard Holmes Williams to make a bit of a gap as they come down towards the final turn. That is going to be Brad Ray on bike number 28 through the final turn. Coming across the line, Brad Ray takes the win of the PB 140s. It is Richard Holmes Williams in second spot. Ben Bailey rounding out the podium positions. Wow, I need to sit down from that. That was heart-pounding stuff.
Wow, fantastic race for Brad Ray. Richard Holmes Williams and Ben Bailey very aggressive with each other. They weren't giving each other even an inch in that one, but the number 28 Bradley Ray, our race winner for the final Pit Bike 140 and Moto Team race of the weekend. Richard Holmes Williams is in second ahead of Ben Bailey. Harvey Claridge comes home fourth in the end ahead of John Petit. Will Howarth made it up to sixth in the end ahead of Jamie King, so Will Howarth our winning Moto Team rider. Jamie King, Ian Jackson, John Buckle and Henry Meduse, that's the top 10 overall. Simon Clowes is due to come home in 11th and just does in second place in Moto Team ahead of Fraser Kinnaird and Darren Anderson, so second, third and fourth were 11th, 12th and 13th on the road for Moto Team. 14th is Daniel Gilbert ahead of Tom White. Keith Bolton, the number 8, comes home in 16th place. So a great race by all our riders, and clay pigeon is certainly going to suit the Moto Team riders some more, so expect the likes of Simon Clowes, Fraser Kinnaird, Darren Anderson, they're all going to be well within the top 10 at times at clay pigeon. It's going to be some fantastic and exciting racing, plenty more action still to come. Thank you for tuning in. This is live coverage of round 2 of the 2019 Cool FAB-Racing British Mini Bike Championships.
The road to MotoGP and the official partner series to the BSB. Cool FAB-Racing. The road to MotoGP. This is Cool FAB-Racing. Is Cool FAB-Racing. The road to MotoGP. This is Cool FAB-Racing.
The third and final race of the weekend for the Junior LC40 Elites are getting ready to go out onto circuit. They're on the dummy grid, the tension builds, the excitement rises here at round 2 of the 2019 FAB-Racing British Minibike Championships. We have got a fantastic grid lined up, which will line up as follows. It will be Mason Foster and Johnny Garness on the front row of the grid. Emmanuel Brinton and Sullivan Mounsey line up on row 2. Josh Bannister and Ronnie Harris round out row 3, with Clayton Edmonds, Samuel Munson, Henry McCartney and Ethan Sparks rounding out the top 10 riders. Taylor Stewart Campbell and Cameron Sewell 11th and 12th, with Charlie Huntingford, Warwick Brady and Holly Harris rounding out the 15-strong grid. They are out on circuit, just doing the last minute checks on the bikes, making sure all the temperature is in the tyres, in everything, and with 9 laps in prospect, this is going to be another fantastic race, Liam.
Absolutely will be. We've had 2 fantastic races so far this weekend. As we remember back to race number 1, Johnny Garness and Mason Foster took it down to the final corner, with Johnny Garness unfortunately slipping off. In the previous race, it was Johnny Garness who took the spoils, as Mason Foster had, unfortunately, a couple of moments down at the bottom end of the circuit. So we could be seeing a lot of battles between them. So we had Sullivan Mounsey and Ronnie Harris rounding out the podium positions from earlier on in the day. Emmanuel Brinton and Josh Bannister were also in on the action throughout the entire race.
Well, that is very true, but the story may change again here. Race 3 for the Junior LC40 Elite is underway. A brilliant start, absolute brilliant start from Johnny Garness and Sullivan Mounsey. They make their way up towards turn 1 for the first time. Mason Foster drops down to second place for the time being. Johnny Garness leads this race, but we had this before. We've had this where Johnny Garness off the line absolutely fantastically, and then Mason Foster with his impeccable work rate just chases and chases and chases until snap, the position is his again. We've got a rider who stops on the exit of turn number 5. They're on the bike. The marshal's going over just to make sure they can restart the bike. But race continues. Johnny Garness versus Mason Foster. What were we saying? Already the number 88 rider hounding Johnny Garness into the final few turns for the first lap out of 9, Liam.
Absolutely. Mason Foster, Johnny Garness, the battle continues here. Unfortunately, the rider that pulled off could have been Emmanuel Brinton with the number 93 on the side of his helmet. Emmanuel Brinton does drop down the order, so Emmanuel Brinton just stopping at the edge of the circuit. Unfortunately, it looks like a big issue there. So Johnny Garness extending the lead of the race ever so slightly. They're ahead of Mason Foster, but Johnny Garness has always looked good throughout this weekend through the middle part of the section, while Mason Foster closes the gap towards the end.
So Johnny Garness, Mason Foster, the 2 battling for the lead of the race. They're 3 wide at the back because Sullivan Mounsey, Ronnie Harris, Josh Bannister, they are all fighting out there at the moment. Josh Bannister including Clayton Edmonds and Samuel Munson in there. It's going to be Henry McCartney who also starts to close in on that gap. 3 wide coming into the final corner. This is very, very brave stuff for some very young riders indeed over the line. What's the gap going to be in this battle so far? Garness 0.253 ahead of Mason Foster. Ronnie Harris is in third ahead of Sullivan Mounsey. Then it's Josh Bannister and Clayton Edmonds. It's a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 by Gaggle currently side by side. Sullivan Mounsey defending hard from Josh Bannister. Clayton Edmonds also wants a piece of the action. This is not just for championship points, this is for pride, and that is what drives these young riders so much.
You can count on the Junior LC40 Elite class to provide some brilliant close combat action. Ronnie Harris just holds a bit of a gap ahead of Sullivan Mounsey, as Mason Foster is looking round the outside of Johnny Garness, not quite doing it yet. Johnny Garness strong into the final corner. Mason Foster sitting up a little bit, looking nice, calm and comfortable as they approach turn number 1, through turn number 1, as Ronnie Harris comes across the line, extending his lead in third position ahead of Josh Bannister and Sullivan Mounsey. Samuel Munson making a way forward. Josh Bannister unfortunately dropping down ever so slightly. Not sure if something's happened to Josh Bannister at the bottom end of the circuit. He's dropping down our timing monitors. We can see a marshal running, so we'll keep an eye out on that. But the battle for fourth position is hotting up. Sullivan Mounsey, Clayton Edmonds, Samuel Munson battle out as they head on towards the back straight.
Heading on to the back straight, the battle for the lead is ensuing. There's a yellow flag at turn 7 currently. So Marshall's just going over to have a look at something. But the race lead under contention again. Johnny Garnes holding on. Mason Foster, the 88, knows so well how to overtake Johnny Garnes. This is going to go down in the Cool Fab history books as one of the most iconic battles we've had in the championship's inception. Left and then right, turn 2 and turn 3. It's a very tight chicane. Big painted curbs to run over. You could slip over those if you're not careful, but so far neither of these two have put a foot wrong. 4 laps complete, 5 to go. Garnes and Foster your top 2, with Harris, Edmonds, Mounsey and Munson your top 6.
Clayton Edmonds put a brilliant move on Sullivan Mounsey coming through the bottom end of the circuit. Sullivan Mounsey took it defensive. Clayton Edmonds right round the outside coming towards the final corner. That battle is definitely going to be worth keeping an eye on as the closing laps start to descend on us. So Mason Foster looking towards Johnny Garnes as they approach the final turn. Once again, Johnny Garnes holds the position. Mason Foster quick on the straights. Johnny Garnes quick into the corners. As they approach turn number 2, it's Mason Foster climbing all over the back of our championship leader and so far race leader. But it looks like we might have the battle for 4th, 5th and 6th closing ever so slightly on Ronnie Harris through the middle section of the track. Sullivan Mounsey all over the back of Clayton Edmonds. Won't be too happy with the move that Clayton Edmonds made move around the outside. It was a clean move, but he just won't be happy with the way he done it.
You can't be happy with everything in life, but motor racing is a very tricky thing to be happy about at times anyway. Johnny Garnes and Mason Foster. Garnes has got the fastest lap, 49.327, but Mason Foster with the determination as per normal again, charging, trying to make the inside line at the final corner. 3 laps to go as they cross the line now through the sweeping turns at turns 1 and 2 before transforming into the chicane, and a big lunge from Mason Foster with the fastest lap on that last lap. They're pushing each other quicker and quicker. A 49.0 for Mason, 49.1 for Johnny Garnes. There's nothing in between these two, and such a great rivalry. 2.5 laps to go. They're onto the back straight, and again Mason Foster just puts his head down and gets the slipstream.
Now you can see that Mason Foster is very quick on the straights as he closes up to the back of Johnny Garnes. She said a little bit earlier on, this is one of the true rivalries, the historical rivalries in the Cool Fab Racing. You can remember last year they both went for the AC40 Pro Championship, pushing each other all season long, and they're continuing it into the LC40 Elite class. This is great racing from the top 2. Johnny Garnes, Mason Foster tick off another lap. Mason Foster round the outside of Johnny Garnes. Has he done it? He has done it. Into turn number 1. Johnny Garnes looking back up the inside into turn 2. Doesn't do it yet. So Mason Foster takes the lead of the race. Johnny Garnes will be hoping to get back up the side as he does into turn 4. Clean move, but it was a bold move at the same time.
A bold late move, throwing it up the inside at the left-hander before turn number 5. Just taking an opportunistic angle. Sometimes you just got to go for a move if you know you're going to do it, but Mason Foster is not going to take that sitting down. He's on the attack once again into turn 7, the very tight left and then right-handed hairpins at the far end of the circuit. A lap and a half to go. This is going to be another run to the line. You can tell already the number 57 leads. Johnny Garnes leads this final lap. Mason Foster's in second, gets a good run but not a great run out of the final corner. They see the final lap, but he turns it up the inside again. Mason Foster through. Johnny Garnes immediately cuts back and respond. Turn 2 and turn 3 through the chicane. They don't attack each other then, but such intelligent racing from 2 very, very young riders. Makes the move, but left the door open. Johnny Garnes is not going to say no to that. And with half a lap to go, the 57 leads. Mason Foster in the slipstream once again. But can he make another late move? He's going to certainly have a think about it, but can he do it?
Looks like he's making a move on Johnny Garnes with a couple of corners still to go. That was a great switchback from Mason Foster and Johnny Garnes as they approach the final turn. Will Mason Foster go for a gap into the final corner? Johnny Garnes holds the line at the moment. Coming through the final turn, it's going to be Johnny Garnes, but will Mason Foster get the run in the corner? Not quite. Johnny Garnes just takes the race win ahead of Mason Foster by 200ths of a second. Those two providing a fantastically close race battle once again, as it will go down in the history books as a brilliant close rivalry. Ronnie Harris takes 3rd spot, rounding out the podium positions just ahead of Clayton Edmonds. Sullivan Mounsey and Samuel Munson next up in 6th spot as we wait for Ethan Sparks to come across the line in 7th. We've got Henry McCartney on bike number 31 in 8th position there. I've got Charlie Huntingford coming across the line just in front of Cameron Sewell. Emmanuel Brinton in 11th spot, just missing out on a top 10 position. And Josh Bannister, unfortunately, coming home in 12th spot there.
Well, Josh Bannister, a shame for Josh. He will come back stronger than ever before. But Johnny Garnes and Mason Foster, such intelligent racing from these two young riders. And we're really looking forward to having some further battles with them in the upcoming races, in the next few races. But Johnny Garnes, the race winner, 57, 21 hundredths of a second ahead of Mason Foster. Just... you can't say anything, can you? There's just nothing to say
brilliant.
About it.
The Junior LC40 Elite class have provided 3 fantastic races all weekend. Once again, Johnny Garnes, Mason Foster out front, giving us the races that we have been wanting to see, and definitely cannot show you how much this is such a great battle for the championship, because Mason Foster, Johnny Garnes, this is going to be happening all throughout 2019 at Cool Fab Racing.
Well, it's been happening all through 2018. It's going to happen all through 2019 as well. Thank you for joining us. This is live coverage of round 2 of the 2019 Cool Fab Racing British Mini Bike Championships. We're live at Red Lodge. Thank you for joining us. We've got just a few guests in the commentary box here. So I might charge you, Liam, with doing some interviews for this one. We'll try and introduce yourselves one by one.
Yeah, so guys, we'll give you some microphones here.
So if you guys just want to come on a bit further forward, get a nice camera shot. Yep, there you go.
So, you've been in the commentary box before, but for our new listeners, what's your name?
James Cook.
James Cook. So, James, what category are you racing in?
Mini GP 70.
Mini GP 70s. Now, you have been having a tough battle out there on track this weekend, but have you been having lots of fun?
Yeah, I've been having fun with just everyone, to be honest, in the race. Yeah, I did all right pretty much in the race.
You've done all right. You've picked up a win this weekend and battling out for the rest of the podium positions. What has been your favourite race, favourite moment of the weekend so far?
Well, it was probably the first race where I got my first win, in the 70s so far. So, yeah, I'm pretty happy about that.
Yeah, so thanks very much, James Cook. We'll be watching your progress throughout the rest of the 2019 season. Now, you've been in the commentary box before as well. What's your name and what class are you in?
Owen Miller in GP 70.
GP 70s. Now, how's your weekend been going so far? Have you been enjoying it?
Yeah, it's been alright. Well, the last race was, the first and second race wasn't that great.
So, what has been your highlight this weekend? Apart from obviously forgetting about the first and second race.
I don't know, probably...
Are you going to say the weekend being over? Is that what it is?
No, probably the last race.
Last race? Yeah. How well did you do in that one?
I got 7th after I overtook Ollie, then I caught on the back of Emmanuel.
Yeah, it was a brilliant round. Thank you very much. We'll be watching you throughout the rest of the 2019. Right, guys, we'll try and gather you in very, very quickly. What's your name and what class are you riding in?
My name's Evan, and I'm in GP 70s.
Evan
Belford,
there we go. So keep an eye on Evan Belford.
Yes.
What's your name, buddy?
My name's Jack Kirsch, and I'm in the GP 70s.
GP 70s. Have you having a good weekend so far?
Yes, alright.
Yeah, alright. So glad it's over. Looking forward to round 3. Right, what's your name, buddy?
Taylor Lawrence.
Taylor Lawrence, and what class are you in?
Extreme 200s.
Extreme 200s. So you'll be out very shortly then?
Very shortly.
Yeah. Thanks very much, guys. I think they just wanted to get on camera, Dan.
Well, thanks very much, guys, for coming to join us. We've got a very quick grid for you here as we get ready for the start of the third and final senior mini motos race of the weekend. Will Howarth and Bernie Hook will be on the front row. Rob Petit, Simon Huntingford, Matt Birkin's your top 5, with Chris Yeomans, Craig Ashall 6th and 7th. Red lights on, red lights out. A good start from our 2 front row men of Will Howarth and Bernie Hook, making their way down towards Telmore for the first time. But Matt Birkin, out of absolutely nowhere, makes a blinder of a start, already into the lead. Matt Birkin, for context, started in 5th place and just shot off like a scalded cat.
Yeah, absolutely. Did shoot off like a scalded cat. He's not been having too much fun out there this weekend. Had a couple of weeks offs, but hopefully, fingers crossed, he will be leading out this race for himself, and of course he will be pulling away from the front of the field. So it's Matt Birkin in first spot ahead of the likes of the rest of the field at the moment there. So
Will Howarth and Bernie Hook enjoying a good battle so far, making their way through the final couple of corners. Matt Birkin, though, very happy in the lead at the moment. It's probably going to stay there for the rest of the race if they keep it up like this, but I have a sneaking suspicion that might not be the case. Bernie Hook in second, Will Howard third.
Yeah, Will Howard is in third ahead of Rob Petit, Simon Huntingford, Paul Nichols in sixth spot, Nick Bennett seventh ahead of Craig Ashall has dropped down a position, and Neil Skinner rounding out the runners and riders in ninth spot at the moment. But we've got Will Howard and Bernie Hook battling out for second position as Matt Birkin, who has looked the most comfortable, has looked all weekend so far, extending the lead at the front of the pack with Will Howard all over the back of Bernie Hook for second.
Well, now you say that, I don't wish to sound contrary, Liam, but it's very much the case that Bernie Hook was about a second behind so far, has now closed that gap in, I reckon, to about half a second or so. Matt Birkin, the number 5 rider, very orange and blue overalls, got Bernie Hook and Will Howard for company. They're fighting amongst each other to try and close in. They're closing in definitely underneath the braking zones, but not over the timing line as they extended the gap by a tenth and a half. So yeah. I'll stop talking for a second, but in the meantime, Bernie Hook and Will Howard working with each other on the infield section. Not just those battling though. Rob Petit is involved in an almighty scrap with Simon Huntingford and Paul Nichols. They're trying to go side by side, heading up towards turn 6. The hook onto the back straight. They're going to use the toe, which can be quite effective with these adults on the bikes. They're trying to go up the inside, or in fact, right around the outside, using much superior grip, and made the position through. So Rob Petit not quite in 4th place at the moment. Still, though, Bernie Hook was in second place, but he's now in 3rd place. 2nd place going the way of Will Howard. Liam, how did that overtake happen?
Yeah, so it happened a few corners beforehand. We had Will Howard looking up the inside of Bernie Hook. Hook managed to still hold the position, but as they came out of the tight right-hander towards the end of the lap, Will Howard just got to run up the inside, left Bernie Hook with nowhere to go, up the inside, squeezed him out, but managed to get into second spot and chases down Matt Birkin. So that gap looks like it's been hooked at 1.4 seconds after the overtake. So you never know, with a few more laps to go, we might have Will Howard on bike number 96 catching the back of number 5, Matt Birkin.
But not if they continue at the pace they're going right now. Matt Birkin with the fastest lap, 49.7, 50.2 for Will Howard. So a little bit of a difference so far. But knowing how often these senior mini motor races can fluctuate, it can all change in a heartbeat. As we say that, 49.6 for Matt Birkin, 49.7 for Will Howard. So staying very consistent with each other at the moment. 1.5 seconds is the gap between Birkin and Howard. Bernie Hook still in 3rd place on lap number 5. Simon Huntingford and Rob Petit in 4th and 5th. Paul Nichols is scrapping with Nick Bennett for 6th place at the moment. Craig Ashall and Neil Skinner 8th and 9th.
Yeah, the field has become very strong out at the moment. As I say that, it looks like Nick Bennett is closing in and Paul Nichols. So after a few laps of close battles down towards 4th, 5th, 6th and 7th, they've strung out a little bit. But it looks like Will Howard is still trying to close the gap on Matt Birkin. It looks like he closes it towards the end of the lap, but as they come across the line, Matt Birkin seems to get the power down nice and early, lots of grip, comes across the line and has always extended the gap. So it's just a few hundredths that time round, only 8 thousandths in it between the lap time, so the gap is now up to 1.577 of a second. We've still got Bernie Hook in 3rd spot, Simon Huntingford holding off Rob Petit in 5th place. Paul Nichols has got Nick Bennett climbing all over the back of him. Craig Ashall and Neil Skinner round out the runners and riders at the moment.
Consistency is key in motor racing, is that not true? Matt Birkin, the number 5, enjoying a good weekend. It's been up and down for him, but so far the number 5 rider is very much enjoying the racing in race number 3. Will Howard and Bernie Hook, that's your podium. No real change there. Unfortunately, the racing a little bit more strung out than we ever expected, but that doesn't stop us from having some fantastic racing all around. And it's been a fantastic race for the senior mini motos all weekend, especially in the damp conditions in race 2 this morning. That was a real challenge for our riders.
It really was. We had Matt Birkin slipping off at turn number 6 onto the back straight earlier on this morning, but in the dry conditions he's looking a lot happier, a lot more at home with the bike. But as we say that, Will Howard has closed the gap, very, very small closure of the gap there, and he's down to 1.508 of a second. We're talking minuscule difference in lap times here with gaps closing, but Nick Bennett is still all over the back of Paul Nicholls. But as they come through the middle part of the section of the track, Paul Nicholls has pulled out a little bit of a gap in front of Nick Bennett, but Rob Petit looks like he's climbing all over the back of Simon Huntingford. So after a few laps of Simon Huntingford pulling a bit of a gap, we have Rob Petit closing it back down for 4th and 5th to the bottom end of the circuit. Huntingford closing the door so Petit can't get through as they come down towards the last corner. It's very close between the for 4th and 5th positions across the lane. Huntingford looks behind him, sees Rob Petit there, tries to go around the other side, but it still stays the same at the moment through turn number 1. So as they go into turn 2, looking every which way is Rob Petit, coming through turn number 3, switching left to right, back to left again, back to right again through the tight right-hander in a second. We're going to have Rob Petit putting the power down nearly up the inside as they come into turn number 6 for the moment there, Dan.
Well, it's closing up, not just in that battle there, but closing up a field for the race lead. Matt Birkin was only 1.1 seconds ahead on the last lap. We now start the last lap, and over the line, Matt Birkin and Will Howarth is 0.9 of a second, so closing in exponentially. And the fastest lap has also gone to Will Howarth now, 49.4, closing in with every corner, but is this going to be enough? Number 5 just ahead of number 96. Will Howarth, the red mist has descended, and with half a lap left to go, this is the moment where Will needs to really get the pace on. He's working hard down the back straight, closing up inch by inch, foot by foot, through the final few corners at the back. There's a yellow flag, one rider pushing the bike away, the rider's up and pushing the bike, but it's going to be very close now. Matt Birkin seems to be struggling for pace. Will Howarth heading up towards the final corner for the final time, not going to be able to get the run out of it, you fear, although getting a decent run. He's going to try and overlap him, cross his left, cross his right, can't do it though. Matt Birkin just wins that race by 27 hundredths of a second. So where did the pace go?
I don't know, it just disappeared in the last couple of laps. I don't know where the pace went for Matt Birkin, but where did the pace come from Will Howarth? Fastest lap of the race on the final lap, closed the gap down for the last few laps there. So I don't know if the pressure maybe got to Matt Birkin a little bit, maybe he was just easing the pace up, but it looked round as he came out the final corner. I think he'd have been a little bit surprised to have seen Will Howarth there, so close as he was, so just held off Will Howarth for first spot, did Matt Birkin. In third spot was a lonely Bernie Hook. Rob Petit managed to get ahead of Simon Huntingford on the last lap there, a couple of tenths covering those two. In sixth was Paul Nicholls, just ahead of Nick Bennett. In eighth spot was Neil Skinner and Craig Ashall, who would have been the person at the side of the circuit pushing his bike away. Finishes in ninth on bike number 81. It wasn't the closest race we've ever seen from the senior mini motos, but towards the end of the race, well, we could have thought they were battling out that close all race long.
Well, we certainly weren't expecting that to happen at all. I mean, sort of Will Howarth coming through the final corner, cuts left, cuts right, tries to cut back to the left again to try and get on the inside. Couldn't quite work, and it was close. I mean, it was probably only about this close. And I mean, we've seen the fight that Will Howarth will put up in a senior mini moto race. If anyone can recall that moment at GYG last year, for example, you know, these riders are so passionate about what they do and how they go about their racing. So it's great to have a scrap right at the very end of the race. It's always a bit more exciting. And, well, that's it from them for Red Lodge. There's still plenty more action to come, including the next race. The third and final Mini GP 50 race of the weekend is about to get underway. They are just in the assembly area here at Red Lodge. You're listening to live coverage of round 2 of the 2019 Cool Fab Racing British Mini Bike Championships.
So yes, we've got the Mini GP 50s, as you said, out for race number 3 next. Now, we've had lots of great battles between them throughout the previous 2 races. As you might cast your mind back to the race just before lunchtime there, race number 2 of the Mini GP 50s gave us a fantastic show. We had Harrison Crosby coming through with a lap and a half to go. He was in 4th spot with 2 laps to go and managed to win the race right at the end. So we've got lots of action to look forward to from this class, and you don't want to be missing it right here at CoolFab. You can find us on Twitter at CoolFab, on Twitter as well at M Sport Radio. Just if you've joined us, that's where you can find us. Facebook as well, Motorsport Radio, Cool Fab Racing. You can find us on Twitch as well. For all you gamers out there, you know what Twitch is all about. We're obviously over there as well. YouTube as well, so you can catch us on all the social media. So this is racing you don't want to miss, where we've got 3 races left, because after this we've got the Stream 200 race 3 and the sidecars racing to complete the day's action. So as the riders make their way round to the start of the grid, we will be having Kyle Payne on bike number 25, starting in your pole position. Ryan Hitchcock on bike number 43 will be going off second position on the grid, ahead of row number 2's Lucas Brown, starting in third spot. Josh Bannister, who managed to get himself back on the grid after he slipped off on the sighting lap, will be starting from fourth spot in the previous race, that was. And fifth spot on bike number 808 is Mason Johnson, starting off row number 3. Alfie Davidson in sixth spot on bike number 8. Ninth spot will be Harrison Crosby, as I said, making his way through the field from 7th on the grid to take the race win in race number 2. Now these conditions might play into his hands, as we can see the clouds descending. It's getting a little bit darker out there again, so fingers crossed the rain stays off before the start of this race. Jimmy Parker will be in 8th place on bike number 39. Taylor Stewart Campbell on bike number 97 will be in 9th spot, ahead of Ronnie Harris on bike number 66. Running at the top 10, Harrison McKee on bike 61 will be in 11th, ahead of Ollie Horner on bike 17 and 12th place. Ben Jolliffe on bike 125 in 13th position. Unlucky for some, but fingers crossed not for Ben Jolliffe. And Warwick Brady on bike number 99 in 14th place. Finn Werty rounds out the runners and riders in 15th place on bike 110.
Fantastic then, the grid. This is the final Mini GP50 race of the weekend. The riders make their way through the final few corners, getting ready to the grid. And it will be pretty exciting just to see what will happen and hear what will happen in this race. Thank you for joining us on social media. Thank you for all of your comments, likes and shares. Please do keep getting in touch. Let the whole world know how much you love the cool FAB-Racing action by commenting, sharing to all your friends and family. Let them know how to get in touch at M Sport Radio on Twitter, at CoolFab-Racing as well. Head over to motorsport.radio for a full audio archive of the racing from 2017 as well. We are ready then for the race starts. They look towards the starting gantry. The red lights are on. They are out now. Good start from pretty much everyone. A couple of riders struggling to get away with these bikes, but as they make their way into turn number 1 for the first time, it is the likes of Kyle Payne that's made a great start, but Ryan Hitchcock makes a better mess of the first chicane. Into the lead goes Ryan Hitchcock ahead of Kyle Payne. Mason Johnson getting up into 4th place. A good start again from Mason Johnson. Starts very well in these races. 11 laps to go in this race, so plenty of time for riders to get into a rhythm and get a bit of action underneath their belts. But so far, Ryan Hitchcock makes the best start, one of the best starts he's made all weekend, and leads this race.
Yes, Ryan Hitchcock, our race 1 winner this weekend. Kyle Payne hasn't picked up a race win just yet, but he leads the way, so he'll be looking to make amends of that in the third race here today. It looks like we've got a change of position for 4th spot. That looks like Harrison Crosby coming off 7th on the grid up to 4th spot. Unfortunately, that was 6th spot, so I'm looking a little bit further down the field. Mason Johnson has had a great start from further down the order. He is in 4th spot there, but as we look towards the front of the field, Ryan Hitchcock has opened up a few bike lengths of advantage over Kyle Payne and Lucas Brown, so there's been a change of lead there that has gone amiss from us, or from myself up here in the commentary box. Dan, do you see anything there?
Well, wasn't easy to see what happened there for the time being. We will try and get as much information on that as we can, but Ryan Hitchcock 0.6 of a second over the line. That's a few bike lengths, as you just mentioned. It's 0.6 currently, even more, one fears, as they're about to cross the line once again. Second for Kyle Payne. Third is Lucas Brown, not really attacking, but in and amongst the battles. Josh Bannister, though, also making progress. A few of the riders just making an easy start to this race. They don't want to attack too early on. They've got plenty of time to make moves, make things happen for them. And Josh Bannister in a good spot at the moment. 4th place, got Lucas Brown ahead, the number 29, the number 25, Kyle Payne in 2nd. But 1.3 seconds is the gap between Ryan Hitchcock and the rest of the field.
I don't want to be the bearer of bad news, but the clouds are looking ever more ominous above us. Dark clouds everywhere, but fingers crossed that it stays off for the rest of the action here today. We've still got 9 more laps, or 8.5 more laps left of the Mini GP50s, and we've got a gap building between Ryan Hitchcock and Kyle Payne, who's putting a bit of a gap between himself and Lucas Brown. Josh Bannister's been a bit of a mover in the last couple of laps, up to 4th spot. He's looking for a way past Lucas Brown, but not quite yet. Mason Johnson still holding off Harrison Crosby. As I say that, Harrison Crosby pulling off a move that he pulled in race number 2 up the inside at turn number 2, ahead of Mason Johnson. Switchback from turn 1 to turn 2. He's now up to fifth place and coming towards the back of Josh Bannister.
Mason Johnson is trying to give it an attack on the return. The number 808 rider having a fantastic season so far. Harrison Crosby learning with every race weekend on these larger style bikes. Ryan Hitchcock off and away. 1.5 seconds to gap now. 48.8 the fastest lap. Carl Payne though is not quite holding his own. He's got a battle behind him with Lucas Brown and Josh Bannister. They're side by side into the final corner, and Josh Bannister now into third place. Very nice move on Ryder's right hand side, took the inside lines to the advantage and swept around the outside when he needed to. Now up next will be Kyle Payne, and when I was just saying about doesn't seem to be holding his own at the moment, well, Josh Bannister really going to be breathing down his neck in a few moments time. Through turn number 5, wide hairpin, taking a slightly tighter line, trying to get a bit of traction, trying to use as short distance as possible and onto the long back straight. The slipstream in good effect, turning up to turn number 7, long left-handed followed by the left-handed hairpin. It ever tightens, ever braking. It's such a tricky corner to get the balance on, and Kyle Payne is not a sure man. Josh Bannister is the one with the pace, going to go for similar move as he did a lap before, couldn't quite make it work, remains in third place just for now. Kyle Payne though is not secure on the middle step of the podium.
You're absolutely right there. Josh Bannister is hounding the back of Kyle Payne, just as Taylor Stewart Campbell in 12th is hounding the back of Ben Jolliffe and Ollie Horner. So it's a great wee battle for the bottom end of the positions there with Ben Jolliffe, Taylor Stewart Campbell, Ollie Horner battling out. We've got Taylor Stewart Campbell looking up the inside of Ben Jolliffe into the final turn, through the final turn, but Ben Jolliffe still holds it off at the moment. But we look back towards the battle for second. We've got Josh Bannister looking up the inside of Kyle Payne, not quite doing it just yet, backing off at the moment as they go into the left-hander, which ever tightens as they go through the left, flick it right. Josh Bannister's been great at getting the power down out of this right-hander. Can he make a move towards the final turn? He's looking up the inside across the pit entry, not quite doing it just yet, coming through the final turn of this circuit so far along the home straight across the start finish line. It's still Kyle Payne holding off Josh Bannister, but it's allowing Lucas Brown and Harrison Crosby, who's just put in the fastest lap of the race, a 48.498. That's 2/10 quicker than our race leader. So he's in fifth spot, closing down the battle for second.
2/10 quicker than the race leader, but the race leader is 2.4 seconds up the road ahead of Kyle Payne. Ryan Hitchcock on lap 6 is ahead of Kyle Payne. Josh Bannister still looking for the advantage on the number 25 machine. Can't quite make it through on the back straight. He's lining up a move, but he's not able to complete it quite yet. Lucas Brown, Harrison Crosby, that's your top 5, just to repeat. Mason Johnson and Alfie Davidson, 6th and 7th ahead of Jimmy Parker, Ronnie Harris and Harrison McKee. Taylor Stewart Campbell is now ahead of Ben Jolliffe, and Ollie Horner rounds out the end of the field. But now Josh Bannister is ahead. He is into second place. He has been unleashed. Did a 48.9 compared to a 48.5 to Ryan Hitchcock, so isn't quite closing in at the moment, but now he's unleashed. 4 laps to go. Something could well happen, but Harrison Crosby up to 4th as well. Another quick lap and is right over the back, almost into the bump stops at the very back. Josh Bannister is trying to break away, but it almost now feels like once he's managed to overtake, he can't get it the pace just to pull away. Kyle Payne remaining consistent in 3rd place, but Harrison Crosby again thinking about it, defending and attacking. It's such a difficult thing to do at the same time. Harrison Crosby just almost forced a move, couldn't do it though.
Yeah, Josh Bannister made a brilliant move up the inside of Kyle Payne last lap, using the entrance to the pit lane for good effect. Harrison Crosby getting challenged by Lucas Brown for 4th spot. I think he's just managed to hold it as he come across the line. He has done. He's still in 4th place there. That's the issue when you're in a battle like this with a lot of riders. You've got to look behind you as you're trying to challenge for someone just in front of you there. So Kyle Payne still holding 3rd spot just behind Josh Bannister, but as you said, Josh Bannister looked like he had the pace when he got to second, but once again Kyle Payne is still pegging him and not letting Josh Bannister get away. Harrison Crosby all over the back of Kyle Payne as they make the way onto the back straight for another time, but no one's close enough to make a move just yet into the final section of the circuit. Through the left-hander, whichever tightens, they'll be flicking it right as they do now, while Josh Bannister will still be able to hold the position as they head down towards the final turn. Will Harrison Crosby get the run out of the final corner? Up the inside of Kyle Payne. He's done it. He's into 3rd spot. He used a move, tried and tested and succeeded by Josh Bannister. He's now up to 3rd spot. Race 2's race winner, and he's challenging Josh Bannister for 2nd spot. Josh Bannister knew he was there, so he closed the door going into turn number 2.
I fear that he's going to push a bit too hard though, trying to make a move. Josh Bannister's happy in second place at the moment, but he's going to go for the inside line at turn number 5. It's tightening, he just gets squeezed out, has to lift off the throttle. That's never a great idea, but onto the back straight again. Ryan Hitchcock is good as gone. 9 laps complete, 4.1 seconds ahead. He's a real class of the field in this third and final race of the weekend. Josh Bannister, though, is still coming under pressure from Harrison Crosby. Very consistent lap times from Harrison Crosby. The number 69 rider might go for a late move, isn't quite got the pace to do it, but the number 2 struggling to get the front end bite out of the final corner. That's what's inviting Harrison Crosby to make some progress, further progress in this race. 2 laps to go now, 1 lap now to go indeed, and it's going to be very, very tight through the final complex of corners. Side by side into turn 5. Harrison Crosby nearly clouts the tyre wall in the inside of turn 5. He does almost make a move again on Josh Bannister. A rider's gone down at the turn number 2. We're not sure who that is, so we'll give you more information when they're up. They are standing up now though, but the race continues. Yellow flags are out, but it's not going to affect the battle for the race lead. Ryan Hitchcock is going to win this race. Liam, though, who is going to be second?
It's tough to call. It's going to be coming home in second spot. Can it be Josh Bannister? Can it be Harrison Crosby? Or can it be Kyle Payne? As we have Ryan Hitchcock across the line, taking his second race win of the day, coming home in second. Josh Bannister just holds it ahead of Harrison Crosby. Kyle Payne just misses out on the podium. Lucas Brown in 5th spot, and Mason Johnson, giving us an epic battle for second position, comes home in 6th, just ahead of Alfie Davidson on bike number 8. We're awaiting Jimmy Parker to come across the line next in 8th position, and as they come across the line any second now, he looks behind him, just looking at Ronnie Harris. So it's going to be Jimmy Parker ahead of Ronnie Harris. A great battle for 8th position there. Harrison McKee will be coming across the line any moment now as he's battling with the likes of Taylor Stewart Campbell. Who's got it there? Will it be Taylor Stewart Campbell round the outside? Yes, it is. Taylor Stewart Campbell moves up to 10th spot. Harrison McKee not happy at all with losing out in the top 10 there, throwing his fists up in the air as Taylor Stewart Campbell just nipped ahead of him. Ben Jolliffe coming across the line in 12th, so I believe it was Ollie Horner that went down at the end of the race there, but fingers crossed he's up and okay. We believe he was, as he came across the line in 13th spot. So once again, I'll give you a quick rundown of the race results. So it was Ryan Hitchcock who took his second race win of the weekend, winning race 1 and race number 3 by 4.9 seconds ahead of Josh Bannister, and Harrison Crosby picking up a third place of the weekend, winning race number 2 earlier on in the day. So that is your podium positions for the Mini GP 50s here at the 2019 Cool Fab Racing round number 2 at Red Lodge. Just remember to catch us on Facebook at Cool Fab Racing, and of course Motorsport Radio. You can find us on Twitter if you're just tuning in for the first time at Cool Fab Racing, and of course at M Sport Radio, and you can find us on Twitch and YouTube as well. So we will be all over the social medias. We've got 2 more races that are coming up next.
This is Cool Fab Racing. And best British championships for mini bikes. This is Cool Fab Racing from Red Lodge.
Welcome back to Cool Fab Racing live radio coverage from Red Lodge, round number 2, and we have our penultimate race of the day lining up on the grid. It is the Extreme 200. Now, we've had some cracking racing from the Extreme 200 so far this weekend. They have been out in force and they're going to be providing us with some fantastic racing action. So, heading up, the riders on the grid will be Tractor Boy. That will be Richard Holmes Williams on bike 126. Next time should be Brad Ray, but it doesn't look like Brad Ray will be taking the start in this race as there was a gap at the head of the field. Taylor Lawrence on bike number 10 will be starting from 3rd spot there, and bike number 201 is Cam Harris starting in 4th position there. Brandon Perrell, the yellow Perrell, will be in 5th spot on bike 146. In 6th position we have Will Howarth on bike number 96, followed by Charlie Nesbitt, who should be out there on circuit, but we're not too sure if they will be taking up the grid position on bike number 86. Harvey Claridge on bike 16, the British Talent Cup rider Harvey Claridge will be starting from 8th spot ahead of Jamie King, local boy, looking for a great result in his final race of the weekend on bike number 76. Blake Ansell would have been heading up on row number 5 in 10th spot, but he's had to go home after a few bike issues this weekend. Ian Jackson will be in 11th spot on bike number 7 ahead of David Wales on bike 71. Bernie Hook will be lining up in 13th ahead of Callum Wybrow on bike 67th, and Fraser Kinnaird rounds out the runners and riders in 15th position on the grid on bike number 3 back on row number 8. So, as the depleted field of riders take their positions on the grid, they look towards the right, look but don't stare, the red lights go out, and it's a great start by Richard Holmes Williams ahead of Taylor Lawrence as they head into turn number 1, but there's already a gap at the front of the field. But Brandon Perrell has made a great start from 5th on the grid up to 3rd spot, so he's looking cosy and comfy in that position there with the likes of the number 10 rider. Taylor Lawrence looking all over the back, so he dropped a couple of positions from the start, so it looks like we might have Cam Harris moving up to 2nd position. But at the front of the field, Richard Holmes Williams has already opened up a gap that looks to be about 1.5 seconds, so he's already off and running, looking golden at the head of this field. Brandon Perrell climbing all over the back of Cam Harris as they make the way round towards the end of the lap. Down towards the last corner, Brandon Perrell is looking like he's making a move on Cam Harris. Can he make it stick as they come through the final corner? Not quite. It's Cam Harris across the line in 2nd, just ahead of Brandon Perrell, and we've got Taylor Lawrence climbing all over the back of the yellow Perrell in 3rd spot there. We've got Harvey Claridge just making up some ground that he lost at the start in 5th spot, using the tight and twisty infield section of the circuit to close up on the slightly bigger bikes in front of him. And 6th spot is Will Howarth. David Wales in 7th spot on bike number 71, Ian Jackson in 7th, and Jamie King had an unfortunate start. He's back at the bottom end of the field in 9th spot, so he's just made his way past Ian Jackson, so they've had a bit of an issue on the opening lap of this Extreme 200 race. But we look towards the battle for 2nd. It's still Cam Harris leading the way for that battle for 2nd ahead of Brandon Perrell as they come towards the final corner. Taylor Lawrence is still in 4th spot just behind them there. Harvey Clark is using all that mid-corner speed to look up the inside, and as they go up to turn number 1, Brandon Perrell just closes the door on Taylor Lawrence into turn number 2. The dark clouds descend once again, making it look even darker here, but brightening up the racing on the track as Brandon Perrell, who looked round the outside of Cam Harris, didn't make it stick, and we've got Will Howarth closing on the back of the battle for 2nd at the moment. So leading the way is still Richard Holmes Williams. At the end of the last lap, he was 6.3 seconds ahead, but that gap looks like it will be closer to 10 seconds as they close this final lap, or if they close this lap at this end of the race. So Cam Harris still holding Brandon Perrell just behind him. If you've not seen any Cool Fab Racing yet, Brandon Perrell is covered in day-glow yellow, a bit like Valentino Rossi, so you'll be able to pick him out from any of the other riders if you ever come down to a Cool Fab event. So the top 2 seem to be pulling away. Cam Harris, Brandon Perrell, Taylor Lawrence are gapping the likes of Harvey Claridge at the moment. Harvey Claridge is trying everything he can, using the mid-corner speed, using the twisty stuff to catch up to the bigger bikes. But when it comes to the power and out-and-out grunt down the straight, it looks like the bigger bikes just pull a bit of a gap in front of Harvey Claridge.
Well, the bigger grunt is tricky around there because you want a lot of torque, thrusting you out of the corners, really pushing you and giving you the opportunity to try and catch up, but then it's a it's a bit of a catch-22, because if you've got so much torque, you don't lack the speed at times. So when you've got some longer runs around him, it becomes really tricky. So you've got to really work on it. Richard Holmes-Williams, as you have been saying, up and away completely. Cam Harris just holding on. Brandon Perrell is fighting for his life. The yellow Perrell really doing very well out there in third place at the moment. 12.3 seconds, my goodness me, that is some work from the 1:26. 2:01 of Cam Harris, so doing brilliantly well, holding up a few riders. Brandon Perrell resisting the temptations from Taylor Lawrence and Harvey Claridge. A four-race scrap, a fantastic four-race scrap for all of them. So really some very talented riders out there, and they've been doing very, very well indeed.
Yes, very talented indeed. Richard Holmes-Williams increases his gap at the top of the field as he crosses the line. He's starting to lap the other riders. He's that far out in front at the moment. Cam Harris still holding a brilliant second spot at the moment ahead of the yellow Perrell. Taylor Lawrence is looking all over the back of the yellow Perrell for third spot. Harvey Claridge has not been dropped just yet, and he is putting in his fastest lap of the race, so he's closing up to the back of the battle for a second spot there. But Richard Holmes-Williams with a gap of 14.6 seconds. Dan, I don't think anyone will catch him here.
When we have the cursor of the commentator, I would like to have that placed on record as to what he's just said, ladies and gentlemen. But it will be unlikely. I will concede the point that it will be unlikely that he's going to be caught at this stage. 7 laps to go, 14.6 seconds. It's just incredible, absolutely incredible. But Cam Harris also managing to put a couple of bike lengths on Brandon Perrell. He's dropped him in it, really. Third place is the biggest role under contention. Taylor Lawrence fancies a bit of silverware after this weekend. And over the line once more, Brandon Perrell is just 1.150 ahead of Taylor Lawrence. Taylor really can see a podium in sight, but then Harvey Claridge, you can't discount Harvey. Had a bit of an off weekend, I suppose, for Harvey. He's normally very competitive. He still is very competitive in this race, but not quite as high up as we would expect. However, he will be determined also to get a good result to cap off the weekend. And even that gap at the moment is Taylor Lawrence and Harvey Claridge, 4th and 5th. They're scrapping away. It is just that age-old chicken and egg situation, as you can't go ahead because you haven't got enough straight line speed, but because you've got so much torque you can't overtake. It's tricky.
Yeah, it's unfortunate for Harvey Claridge. He's using all of that nimbleness of his bike to good effect to close up to the back of the bigger bikes, but he just can't seem to use it to get past them, which is a bit of a shame because he seems to be using a bit more energy through the bike, through the tyres, and obviously physical energy to keep up with the riders in front. But Brandon Perrell was shaping up a move on Cam Harris, not quite doing it yet. Taylor Lawrence is still there in 4th spot.
But Richard Holmes-Williams, 18.185 seconds ahead of Cam Harris. Brandon Perrell is your top 3. Taylor Lawrence and Harvey Claridge are ahead of Will Howarth. David Wales is in 7th ahead of Jamie King and Ian Jackson. Another slightly off-colour performance as well. Jamie King, you would expect him to be slightly higher up. However, I'm sure after a bit of a topsy-turvy weekend with setup, it is quite difficult to make sure your bike's in the right settings for the track. It has been pretty much every conceivable condition today. And in fact, he goes over. That sounded like a misfire as he was going over the line, so that might explain why he's lacking a bit of pace. His last lap was, Jamie King, 53.3, so it's not too slow, but doesn't quite seem right considering how well that bike's been running for the rest of the weekend. However, the battle for second and beyond is just getting past the number 621 machine, going through, and they continue along their way, so no real hold up there. 4 laps to go, 20 seconds now, the gap between Richard Holmes-Williams and Cam Harris. And I think Richard Holmes-Williams, he just wants to go home for his tea. He's just off and on it.
Absolutely is off and on. He's about half a lap ahead of the rest of the field. We've got a yellow flag out at the bottom end of the circuit, which seems to have been pulled back in. Wasn't quite sure what that was for, but we've got the battle for second is still as close as ever, with Cam Harris just ahead of Perrell and of course Lawrence for second, third and fourth. Claridge is still in the back of it, but dropping off ever so slightly. Brandon Perrell looks like he's about to shape up a move on Cam Harris at some point within the next few laps. Taylor Lawrence is still climbing all over the back, but as I said, the Harvey Claridge was getting dropped by the rest of the field. He's already back on the back of them through the tight and twisty midfield section. Will he be able to make a late move towards the end of the race? But as we're talking about that, Richard Holmes-Williams a 2.4 second lead at the top of the field. Will Howarth is putting in a strong ride in 6th spot ahead of David Wales on bike number 71. Jamie King on the bike number 76 in 8th. As you said, seems to be misfiring or something like that. He did have a couple of problems on the first lap ahead of Ian Jackson.
Well, a big shame there for Jamie King. A sad way to end his weekend, really, with a few bike issues. But over the line again. Cam Harris getting a big wave from the crowd down underneath our commentary box. Richard Holmes-Williams, 46.1, so still flying by all accounts, but not quite as quick as his earlier pace. 24 seconds ahead, 2 laps to go, and the battle Cam Harris seems to have got it sewn up so far. Taylor Lawrence is coming under very big pressure from Harvey Clouds, though, moving the bike left and right. Brandon Perrill had a bit of a struggle with the transition. He's going to be under challenge from Taylor Lawrence again into turn 7. Can't make the position stick. There's a yellow flag out for number 7, I think. So it wasn't down or anything, just slowed on the exit of the corner. So continues on, and no real problem, but we're on the final lap already. Richard Holmes-Williams, 46.086, still pushing like he's challenging for the race win. I think he's got it sewn up, but he's just pushing for the hell of it now.
Yeah, I think he's trying to lap every rider in the field, but he's not close enough to the back of the battle for a second. But wow, that was close from Taylor Lawrence, nearly tagging the back of Brandon Perrill as he headed into turn number 2. There's a back marker in the way. Brandon Perrill nearly gets wiped out by the back marker. Taylor Lawrence is stuck behind him. This gives a chance for Harvey Cloud, and as they come across the line, it's going to be Richard Holmes-Williams picking up the race when he was so far ahead of the rest there. We're still talking about the runners and riders near the start of the lap. So Cam Harris still in second position there, just ahead of Brandon Perrill. They've strung out a little bit of a moment for Brandon Perrill coming towards the bottom end of the circuit. Cam Harris coming down towards the final turn on the course. He's got about a 5 bike length advantage over Brandon Perrill through the final turn. It's going to be Cam Harris to pick up second position. Brandon Perrill holding on for a brilliant third place there. He worked hard for that. Taylor Lawrence in 4th, and Harvey Cloud rounding out the 5th spot there. The top 5, Brandon Perrill punching the air, tapping his bike, looking so happy with his 3rd spot. Great ride by all riders throughout the entire field. Will Howarth comes across the line now in 6th position there, ahead of David Wills, and an unfortunate Jamie King comes across the line on a bike that doesn't seem quite right at the moment, and Ian Jackson will be rounding out the runners and riders as he comes across the line. So Richard Holmes-Williams stamping his authority not only on the race but on the championship with that dominant performance. Winning margin 27.322 of a second around this Red Lodge circuit. It's not a big circuit, but that's definitely a huge advantage to have.
I mean, you don't get a winning margin that large in most bike endurance races these days, do you?
No, not at all. I mean, I can't remember the last time I've seen a gap that big in any racing. So Richard Holmes-Williams, tractor boy, has been cleaning up this weekend, so putting down some seeds for the rest of his championship.
Well, certainly having a good success. The Ipswich rider having some success this season. So, congratulations to Richard Holmes-Williams. We'll certainly have a beer or two after that one suspects, after such a great performance, and we will be looking forward to more of the same at Clay Pigeon in a few weekends' time. And what's sad to say, we have got just one race left this weekend. That is the Mini F1 sidecars. They head out onto the dummy grid for the final time this weekend, and they are going to get prepared and ready here. Live coverage of round 2 of the 2019 Cool FAB-Racing British Mini Bike Championships. This is the official partner series for the BSB and on the road to MotoGP. Fantastic connections all around for this championship, and just the one race left to go.
Yes, there's one final race, which is quite sad because Red Lodge has been absolutely fantastic. A great facility here at the circuit, lots of great action throughout the entire weekend, and we've got the F1, the mini F1 sidecars to go out on circuit. Now, Mick Williams has been clearing up so far this weekend. Jack Walters challenged him in race number 1, just missing out on the race win, but it was a bigger advantage in the second race. Jack Walters did pick up second from that race, and Mick Lee in 3rd. So Mick Williams leads them off from pole position ahead of Jack Walters on sidecar number 2. Mick Lee will be in 3rd spot ahead of Mark Parker on sidecar number 230. John Hosker in 5th place. Simon Ibbotson will be starting in 6th place. 7th will be Adrian Ems, and Paul Qualters Jr. will be starting off from 8th place on the grid. So 8 sidecars out there on the circuit, and potentially and hopefully giving us a fantastic final race of the day.
Well, the riders getting ready with passengers. We lost a few passengers in the last race. They managed to fall off the sidecars, although they did get back on. We must concede no one was hurt, and did get back on, so all was well. Hopefully they don't lose any more this race, but we have got just a few moments to go. We are missing the 127 of John Hosker, so no John Hosker, I'm afraid. We're down 1 Mini F1 sidecar. Looking to the red lights for the final time this weekend. We are underway. Mick Williams with a great start takes the lead heading into turn 1 for the first time. We don't use the full infield for the Mini F1 sidecar races. We use the outfield circuit, so the lap much quicker. The race is much shorter, 8 laps as we are on currently. So it's Mick Williams ahead of Jack Walters. Mick Lee in third place, being challenged by Mark Parker. Meanwhile, we've got Simon Ibbotson challenging Adrian Ems, and Adrian Ems getting challenged by Simon Ibbotson. There's a bit of a spin, a half spin for Paul Quarters Senior, so it's 3 wide almost coming into the final corner. That's always brave stuff on a Mini F1 sidecar, pushing each other through the final few corners. And there's a bit of broken body work as the 76 has to go grass tracking due to being squeezed off the road. Broken bodywork aboard the number 46 machine. No broken bodywork on the number 26 machine. No, Mick Williams in the lead by a very healthy 1.3 seconds currently.
Yeah, got a fantastic start from pole position on the grid and has done what everyone didn't want him to do within the class, which is lead from the start. So Jack Walters has a lot of work to do to try and catch the back of Mick Williams. Mick Lee looking good in third spot at the moment ahead of Mark Parker, but as Jack Walters closing down the gap ever so slightly, not quite yet. 1.4 seconds in it. Mick Williams sets the fastest lap of the race, a 36.198.
Side by side again for 76 and 46. Adrian Ems ahead of Simon Ibbotson. No contact this time, although my goodness me, there is contact going into turn number 2. And as soon as I said that there was no contact out of the final corner, they were side by side into turn number 2, just lent on each other, and the number 46 got a bit of comeback. Maybe Adrian Ems will be thinking. They both rejoined, so they are underway and doesn't seem to be too much damage. Mick Williams, though, leading this race, although not with the fastest lap, 1.3 seconds ahead of Jack Walters. Jack Walters with the fastest lap, 35.972. 3 laps completed, 5 to go. Mick Lee still in third place.
Coming through turns 2, 3 and 4, just heading on towards the back straight there. Jack Walters carried so much corner speed heading onto back straight. Must have caught up about a couple of tenths of a second there on Mick Williams. Mick Lee still trying to hang on in third spot there, but the gap is looking a little bit closer between Jack Walters and Mick Williams. Mick Williams using all the road. Jack Walters using even more of that, touching the curb as they come across the line. A new fastest lap of the race from Jack Walters, a 35.7, 8 tenths of a second in it with 4 laps to go. Jack Walters closing the gap throughout the rest of this lap. Could this be another one of those classic battles between Mick Williams and Jack Walters?
Well, Jack Walters certainly giving it all into turn 7 and 8. Left and then right, very tight hairpins. Mick Williams has very good grunt coming out of the hairpins, very good low down torque. Jack Walters can use some of the very useful top speed that machine has got. Over the line now, it was 0.9 over the line last time. It's now 0.6, so Jack Walters again closing in into the very fast section from turn 2. Jack Walters is in the slipstream, closing up exponentially, moves to the right hand side of the circuit, cannot make it round there, not quite enough room. Mick Williams can defend, but Jack Walters and sidecar passenger, the ones with the pace, they're approaching Simon Ibbotson to put a lap on the number 46 machine. We've got a real battle with 2 1/3 laps to go.
Absolutely, we have a great battle in prospect. Jack Walters gets such a great slingshot onto the back straight. As you said, they're just approaching Simon Ibbotson on the number 46 to put a lap on him. So will he get in the way of our race leaders? He's held up Mick Williams a little bit. Jack Walters gets another great slingshot onto the back straight. Can't make a move on Mick Williams as they pass the back marker of Simon Ibbotson. Mick Lee is only a couple of seconds further back, so if they start scrapping a little bit more, then it could open the door for Mick Lee to gain some positions.
And it's not just those guys that are fighting. There's a good battle going on between Paul Quarters Jr. and Adrian Ems. That is for 5th and 6th at the moment. So the race leader is about to come over the line again. This is the start of the final lap. So this is it, ladies and gentlemen, the final lap of the weekend, and there's a real battle on for the Mini F1 sidecars. Mick Williams bounces over the curbing at turns 2. Jack Walters in the slipstream, closing up inch by inch. This is going to be a long run around turn number 7. They can't close up. I don't quite think they could make it, but Liam, anything could still happen.
Anything can happen in motorsport, and it usually does. So Mick Williams still holds lead of the race, but Jack Walters is looking all over the back of Mick Williams into the final corner. Can Jack Walters make a move as they come out of the final corner? Powers down, Mick Williams comes across the line to take the 3rd race win of the weekend. Jack Walters put in a valiant effort, just missing out in the race when Mick Lee having his best result of the weekend so far. He's had another third position, but that's the closest he's finished to the race leader all weekend. Mark Parker in fourth spot on bike 2300 will be coming across the line any second now. Paul Qualters Jr. pick up another fifth position. A great ride there by Paul Qualters Jr. Simon Ibbotson in seventh spot, but we have a battle for fifth position with Adrian Ems just hounding the back of Paul Qualters Jr. So I called that one a little bit too early, but Adrian Ems looking good to try and overtake Paul Qualters Jr. coming in the final turn, but not quite. It's going to be Paul Qualters Jr. holding it off. Adrian Ems comes home in sixth position. Simon Ibbotson on bike 46 coming home in seventh, rounding out our runners and riders there. So just a great result from everyone involved. Mick Williams picks up his third win of the weekend. Jack Qualters picks up another second. Mick Lee picking up his third place of the weekend ahead of Mark Parker, Paul Qualters Jr. in fifth spot, Adrian Ems in sixth position, and Simon Ibbotson picking up seventh.
What a great result there for Mick Williams and Jack Qualters. A great battle. Hopefully at Clay Pigeon going to be some more fantastic battling, not just from the Mini F1 sidecars, but from all of our categories. But just let's very quickly surmise, very, very good racing this weekend.
I wouldn't just say good racing, I would say fantastic racing all weekend. The Cool Fab Racing has been living up to its talent, its obviously great name of producing great young talent, great racing, and so many categories. For example, the Mini GP50s, the Mini GP70 class, the Pit Bike 140 and motor teams, and of course the Junior LC40 Elite class has been given us great racing throughout the entire weekend. Different conditions that all riders have had to contend with. Sunny yesterday, it was wet in the morning, wet race twos, but dried up for the afternoon, and it's just been a complete mixed conditions that the riders have had to get their head around.
Well, they've managed to get their heads around it, and they've had some fantastic battles. Anything in particular that's really stood out for you?
It's got to be the battle between Johnny Garness and Mason Foster all weekend. They have been producing some fierce close battling. Most of it's been clean, some of it's been a little bit barging elbows, but most of it has been absolutely outstanding. They're definitely two to keep an eye on throughout the rest of the 2019 season in the Junior LC40 Elite class.
Well, thank you very much for joining me in the commentary box. It's been great to have you guys at home tuned in. Thank you very much for joining us, whether it's been on Twitter. Don't forget you can go over and follow us at Cool Fab Racing, at M Sports Radio, on Facebook or your preferred social media platforms. Look for Cool Fab Racing and Motorsports Radio. Plenty of great content still to come in the next few weeks from Cool Fab. Plenty of stuff to come from the world of bikes. You can join Liam Hodgins, Lester Forbes and team over the course pretty much every Thursday evening for the Superbike Show from 8 o'clock. Lots of great content to talk about there. Anything from World Superbikes, BSB, MotoGP, all of your favourite racing categories. Road racing as well, something that you guys cover quite a lot. And there's been loads of great content. Thank you very much for joining us over the course of the weekend. I would like to say also thank you to the marshals and the medics and race control for all of their help over the course of the race weekend. We had a few big delays earlier on this morning. We ended up from about 15 minutes behind schedule to about 20 minutes ahead of it by the end of the race on the Mini F1 sidecar. So thank you very much to everyone for helping out this weekend. Big thank you to Blake Ansell and to Finn Smart for joining us in the commentary box this weekend. I've been working with Liam Hodgins. My name's Dan Marr. Thank you very much for joining us, and until next time, it's goodbye from me.